What is up, everyone? Welcome back to some more Higurashi. In the previous recording session, we've watched Reina slowly descend into madness. Her paranoia's got the best of her, so now her theory as to how everything's kind of working around Hinamizawa is kind of falling apart because she's under the impression that everyone's out to get her, when from everything we can see, that seems to very much not be the case. There's some people that just want to have a chat with her because she had initiated that. Because she had gone to Mion and said, hey, I want to talk to Kasai. So now she's like, oh, now the Sonozakis are looking for me. One of their top guys is looking for me. Oh, shit. When in reality, she was the one who reached out, and there have been so many other misunderstandings throughout these last couple of hours. So now Reina is just fully under the impression that everyone's out to get her. She was just visited by Rika. Rika had snuck into the junkyard where Reina's holed up, and it seemed like Rika was trying to give her the injection thing, which for the longest time we believed was the thing that caused people to tear their throats out. But then after Rika leaves with the, syringe and the whatever's in the syringe, then Reina notices that, she had been scratching at her mosquito bites, and now she's got, her neck is bleeding. She's like, oh god, no. Oh no. I'm gonna start clawing at my throat regardless. Oh shit, I got a limited amount of time, I gotta do something. And then shortly after that, we cut to Keiichi, who's also, I guess, going to go see Reina. At least gonna try to talk some sense into her. That's what he hopes to do anyway. But we'll see how fruitful his efforts be. So without further ado, let's just jump back into it, shall we? This area has no street light, so I was scared to run fast when I could barely see. The moon lit up the sky, but not my steps. The only light I had to see was by my flashlight. The light was very weak. All I could see was the flat gravel road before me. Anything the flashlight could reach was in total darkness. The expression often used in novels, pitch black, wouldn't be inappropriate. I might trip over an empty can or a rock any time. Not wanting to fall, I used the flashlight to its maximum extent to watch my step, but I was still a bit nervous. Started running slower and slower until I was just walking briskly. Did I just stop running because I'm afraid of tripping in the dark? But I usually run around without watching my step during the day. I run around with Reina and Mion all the time. Even if I can see what's underfoot, I don't pay any attention. I don't think I might trip. I just keep running around without a care. Reina might be feeling the same way I am right now. For Reina, the light with which she illuminates the darkness of suspicion is too weak. And the darkness of the delusion she deeply believes in is getting darker and darker. That's why she's scared to even walk on the same roads she always used to take. She fell for the contents of those ridiculous scrapbooks. People might laugh at her for that, but those scrapbooks aren't normal. They manipulate their readers' hearts and, with evil intent, take advantage of their vulnerabilities. That evil intent captured my heart for one night. That's why I know how evil they are. They're just urban legends, like the prophecies of Nostradamus or the Purple Mirror. They're a bunch of feasible lies. When you hear about them at first, you think they're too stupid to believe. Once you fall for them, it's hard to get them out of your mind for some reason. It'll be the year 1999 in less than 20 years. Everybody knows about the prophecy that the world will come to an end in July of 1999. There are even some TV shows about it too, which irresponsibly fan people's fears, so some people take it seriously. Those people think that the prophecy means the outbreak of nuclear war, so some of them are making shelters in their backyards. Some of them are thinking about freezing themselves by 1999 so that they won't be exposed to radiation, only waking up after it's gone. Those people are completely serious about it. When you think about it rationally, it's impossible that there will be an outbreak of nuclear war in 1999. It's true that the Cold War makes us think that the final war will break out any time, but both powers are actually pointing their nuclear missiles at each other, and they know there's nothing to gain for either of them to start a nuclear war. The Soviets might still do it. The Soviets would destroy the world if it meant eradicating liberalism. But that delusion that the Soviets might do it could be neatly swapped for the way Takano-san uses the Sonozaki family in her scrapbooks. When people create a large-scale delusion like the prophecies above, they always use an incomprehensibly unknown enemy such as the Soviet Union, Nazi Germany, or aliens. And they say something like, you never know, they might do things like that, to try and increase the credibility of their delusions without any evidence whatsoever. What did Takano-san know about the Sonozaki family? Nothing. All she did was use the history of Otogahuchi and say that the Sonozaki family is still working behind the scenes, plotting a horrifying conspiracy. It's just like one of those large-scale prophecies. It's nothing but just a stupid story like that one about Nazi Germany, which says that Hitler is still alive and lives in an underground complex somewhere on the South Pole, continuing his plot to conquer the world. No, he's in Argentina, stupid. Reina usually doesn't believe in stupid stories like that. But it was just bad timing, I suppose. It was right after she killed Rina Mamiya and Teppei Hojo and was caught by us. She was in a state of panic when she heard the story. We were waiting for her to recover from the shock. But before she did and regained her strength of heart, a poison got into her and spread all throughout her body. When you're sick and have a weakened immune system, it's easy to get another disease. It's just like that. That's it. Reina's just sick right now. When you're very sick, in bed with a high fever, you sometimes feel like you might die from it. But most of the time, you're just overreacting. You get better soon after you take a medicine, eat healthy food, and sleep a lot. That's how she is right now. She caught a mental cold, that's all. She needs to get better soon, or she might be caught by the police. I passed several patrol cars on my way. I hid every time I saw one since I didn't want to be questioned. I was probably passed by them twice. When I came close to Reina's house, I saw a car parked near the gate. It was obviously watching her house, trying to capture her when she'd arrived home. Mion ordered the Sonozaki family to find Reina to protect her from the police, but honestly, I'm not sure if they can. After all, Reina believes that the Sonozaki family is after her. But if they don't find her, the police will eventually. If that happens, all of us who helped her bury the corpses will be caught by the police in the end. I don't know how or why the police came to suspect her. I think they only have some circumstantial evidence. I don't think they know she did it for sure. But since they're looking everywhere for her now, they must have some kind of reliable evidence. Reina, come on. You don't have time to play around with Takano-san's scrapbooks right now. The police are after you. It was so dark that I couldn't be sure if she was down there. I made up my mind and headed down the slope, carefully shining my flashlight to light my way. I wanted to loudly call out Reina's name, but there might be some policemen nearby looking for her. I walked around a trash pile, and then I saw a light. It was Reina. I ran towards her hideout, kicking aside the trash in my way. Uh-oh. Reina was standing right in front of her hideout, holding a hatchet. Oh no. Oh, bud. Well, Keiichi, you're not long for this world, bud. Because I say she's hyper paranoid right now, and she's sitting there like, the one person that I have on my side that I think is on my side is Keiichi. Everyone else is against me. So I know you're gonna come in here talking about Reina. You're just misunderstanding things. It's not the way you think they are. The things are. It's a total. It's all a big misunderstanding. You don't know what's going on. And she's like, oh, now even Keiichi's turned against me. Well, then I guess I'll start with you. And that's like, not even Keiichi knows what's going on. Because like, that's what's crazy about this fucking chapter is just how everything is just such a big mass of misunderstandings. Because Keiichi's like, oh, the police are after her. Because he has no idea that Reina contacted the police herself. You know? I couldn't blame her. She must have noticed all the noise I had made coming down the slope.
Reina, oh
yeah, also, she believes that the fucking... There's body doubles and skinwalkers, right? Because Mion had lied to the police that Reina was in Gogora. So then when the police came down to the junkyard and were looking around, she overhears that Reina is in Gogora, so she assumes there's a fucking skinwalker who has stolen her appearance. So yeah, now if Keiichi shows up, she's like, no, it's me, Keiichi. Like, she's not even gonna trust him off rip. Especially after she's already had her interaction with Rika, where Rika was very, smug and condescending and, like, not acting at all the way, Reina is used to Rika acting.
今度は圭一くん今夜はいろんな人が来る夜だね。
俺以外にも誰かいるのか?
I shone my flashlight around, but I didn't see anybody else.
この場所はもう安全じゃないんで、圭一くんにも知られたくないから、ついてこないで。
レナ、お前どうしたんだよ。血だらけじゃないか。
もう落ち着いたから大丈夫。もっとも、いつぶり返すかわからないけどね。
Reina's neck was all red. Looked like she had some kind of skin disease on her neck. She probably couldn't bear the itchiness and scratched it really hard.
タオルで拭いただけじゃダメだろ。とりあえずうちでちゃんと消毒した方がいいぞ。
傷口は大したこと。それにもう手遅れだし。
手遅れ？どういうことだよ。
富武さんを死に導いた何かを私もいつの間にか服毒させられてるみたいに。注射なんて物騒な方法じゃない。多分それは覚えてる？先日みーちゃんが卵焼き、あの時にやられたん。遅効性なところがうまい。くそ。
Reina kicked the dirt with hatred. She was almost literally kicking Mion's goodwill to the curb.
おいレナ、お前本気でミオンがそん。
Reina looked stunned, and she stared straight at me. I noticed a slight accusation in her eyes. You can tell by looking into her eyes that she wants to say, "What are you talking about? I already told you that the Sonozaki family is the mastermind behind the conspiracy."
第一よ、あの日の卵焼き、ミオンは一人に一つずつなんか分けてないだろ。
Mion cut her omelet into 5 pieces, and she told us to take one if we wanted. Reina took the end piece of the omelet before anyone else took one. She said it looked cute and ate it right there.
違うよ。みーちゃんは毒が入ってた。
レナ、都合よく記憶を書き換えるなよ。タッパーの蓋の上にこうちょんちょんと5つ並べたんじゃないか。
並べてない。一人に一つずつ配。
そんなこと今までにあったか？俺たちは互いの弁当箱を好きにつつく。これは誰の分なんてお上品に分けっこしたことなんて一度もねえじゃねえか。
She looked at me with that accusation in her eyes. To Reina, everything that comes out of my mouth must sound like a lie. To her, it's a fact that she was poisoned. She knows for sure that the drug was in the omelet. That's why she's contradicting me, because I'm saying something different. I didn't come here to make her mad. I realized that disagreeing would only escalate her anger, so I decided not to. Well, I'm glad you realized that early on, bud.
それよりさ、ここはもう安全な場所じゃないって。どこへ行くつもりだよ。
You said this place isn't safe anymore. You know what she also said, Keiichi? Is that she didn't want you to know where she was going?
さあね、適当に探すよ。
寝るところなんて、俺の家に来いよ。
ありがたいけど辞退するね。園崎家の手先が圭一君が裏切って私を売るとは思いたくないけど。
園崎家の手先が探し、警察がレナを探し回ってるんだ。
なんで？大石さんは味方だし、私のことは放っておくように。私を探すなんてありえないよ。
多分リナと鉄平を殺した
ああ、そういうことか。
I was relieved that we were finally on the same page, but I realized I was wrong right away when she laughed in self-derision.
どうして警察があの殺しの。
いや、わかるわけないだろう。
Nobody saw her killing them. Nobody saw us burying the corpses. We buried them deep in the mountains, and we camouflaged the spot perfectly. Plus, Mion moved them to a secret place afterwards, so it's impossible that the corpses would be found.
今日の夕方ね、私、そしたら。
That didn't sound good. Of course. Reina has no idea that Mion took care of the corpses. She'd think the corpses were still buried there.
なかったの、死体が。誰かが掘り返して死体。
いや、それ
あんな場所。それに、だからあの場所に埋まっていることは。
そうだ。
誰がやったか、みーちゃんだよ。私が警察と結託することが園崎家に探させるだけじゃ。連中もなりふり構ってられない。
ミオンがそんなことするわけねえだろ。
したんだよ。みーちゃんが私を撃った。
いや、ミオンも俺たち、たとえ世界が全部敵になったとしたって、だからミオンがレナを売ることなんて
みーちゃんの肩をどうしても。
逆だろ。なんでミオンをそこまで疑うんだよ。
そんなのミオさんの暴いた致命的な事実。
黙れ黙れ。ちょっと言葉がきつかったな。いいか、あの死体がなくなってやっ
ぱりそう。
終わりまで聞けよ。いいか、ミオンが死体を掘り返したの。営林署がこの夏あの辺り一帯を伐採するって計画を立ててたことが。だからミオンはレナを守るために死体を掘り返してくれたんだよ。
Reina laughed at me like I was stupid or something. I could tell she didn't understand anything I was saying.
そんなのみーちゃんの口から出まかせに決まってるでしょ。圭一君の前ではいい子ぶりたい。あの子の汚いやり方だって。
じゃあどうすれよ。今年の夏に営林署が見つけちまうかもしれないと知ってて、そんなことできるわけねえだろ。
その営林署の伐採計画というのが
わからねえのはレナの方だ。
After I yelled at her, she gave me an icy look. She stared into my eyes, as if trying to find out what I came here
俺
for.
はお前は高野さんのスクラップ帳のせいで最初のうちは面白い話だと思ってたが、お前は今ちょっとした病
ああ、理科もどきにも病気だって言われたっけね。確かに内脇病はもう始まった。
ああ、もうとにかく俺の話。しばらくの間、本当はミオンの家に警察からもかくまえるしな。
Bro, I get you want to help. That was such a shitty suggestion. It'd be a lot safer to stay at Mion's house. Like, have you not been paying attention to the way she reacts to Mion's name? The way she reacts to anything involving her at all? And then you suggest, yeah, go to Mion's house. Go to the Sonozaki main house. Like...
でもそれでもミオンが信用できないってんなら、とにかくこんな休めない場所で縮こまってだって心にいいわけがないんだ。まずは俺の家に行こう。そして冷たい飲み物でも飲みな。そうすりゃレナもすぐに気づくさ。
何を言ってるの？私がおかしくなってるって言いたいの？
Yeah, I was kind of worried she'd react exactly that way. Calling me crazy?
おかしいのはお前たちは寄生虫に乗っ取られて、圭一君も傍観者のつもりでいるけど、それに気づけないのが、それを私は私がきっと圭一君たちを。
おかしいのはお前。じゃあレナは村が丸ごとおかしくて。
ひなみ沢だけじゃないかも。もはや奴らの魔種は。でも私だけは正しいの。ミオさんのスクラップのおかげで圭一君だって気づけたんじゃなかった？
待てよレナ、自分以外おかしいのは自分だけ。世界は最初から何もかましてや自分だけが正しくて世界が全部敵なんてことは、それはつまり。
かわいそうな圭。でも仕方が。ミオさんの真実は誰もが受け入れられるものではない。ミオさん自身だから圭一君が受け入れられないことを私は理解だから、そんな圭一君を救う。頑張って戦って必ず圭一君たちを支配している奴らをやっつけてやるから。
Reina, that's stupid. That's just idiotic. You feel sorry for me? You're stupid. Why don't you understand? Why do you still believe a crazy, stupid story like this? You're just interpreting everything to suit your convenience.
ミオさんもリカちゃんも、そして私。
はあお前本気で何を言ってるんだ。
もういいや。圭一君には私が圭一君。実はね、寄生虫の正体は宇宙人なの。
Oh, God. Yeah, and then Keiichi's gonna remember the fact that, like, when he was talking with Mio, and she's like, oh, yeah, and one time Takano came up with this weird conspiracy that, like, UFOs were involved and that there was aliens and whatnot. Oh, God, of course, it's aliens. Oh. See, that's the thing. I think there are, like, some things from Takano's scrapbooks that probably hold some merit, that are probably worth, you know, thinking about and keeping in the back of your mind and whatnot, and probably have some relevancy in the actual overall mystery of the story. It's not aliens. But that's the thing, there's equally amounts of, like, just random shit that has nothing to do with it, because we know that Takano studies, like, the occult and the supernatural and all this, so there's all sorts of tall tales and legends and myths in her works as well.
宇宙人？
うん、お社様の正体ももちろん宇宙人。天から降臨する際の描写は世界各地に散らばる宇宙人説と合致するの。偉大な文明が起こるとき、偉人は必ず宇宙から現れる。
Okay, we're going down that road. Alright.
彼らは宇宙から優れた英知を持って地球を訪れ、
Aliens built
い
the
つまでも
pyramids
未
and
熟な
whatnot.
地球人類の進化を促そうと。
Hey, wait just a minute. You must be kidding, right, Reina? The parasite theory was interesting, but aliens? Come on, that's just nonsense. But Reina believes this theory so seriously, she feels sorry for me because I can't accept it.
奴らは人体規制を通じて、だが時折勘のいい人間が生まれ、その支配の実態を暴こうとした。彼らはそれを取り除き、コミュニティを維持するために、そして時には金属片を埋め込みそのコントロールを得たり、あるいは外見だけを共有した別の存在と入れ替えることによって支配を続け、そいつらはミオさんのコピーを生み、私のコピーを生んだ。リカちゃんのコピーもさっき来たんだよ。そいつと話し、そいつは宇宙から来た存在であることを認めたよ。
It sure didn't.
そして破滅の日が近いことを告白し、私にあがけるものならあがけと嘲笑った。
It did say that.
私は戦うよ。人類を奴らの家畜になどしてたまるか。私は絶対に。
You're so stupid. I stepped towards Reina and slapped her in the face. I was hoping it would return her to sanity. You are a dumbass. You are equally as stupid. Did you forget that when you first arrived here, you noticed she had a hatchet in her hands? Do you really think trying to escalate things physically will end well for you? You already know she's killed 2 people before. And guess what? In this story, you don't have that experience under your belt. You ain't taken no lives yet, big boy. That was truly fucking dumb.
目を覚ませレナ、もう忘れた。まさにこの場所、それもほんの俺たち仲間たちはこの場所で、そして仲間は家族同然だって認め合ったよな。
Reina played with her wrist. She didn't interrupt, so I continued.
お前の言う宇宙人がたとえ世界中が信じなくても俺はお前の仲間で。でもな、仲間で味方のあの高野さんのスクラップ帳は本当さ。高野さんはオカルトマニアなんだ。ひなみ沢の古い歴史をいろいろに解釈して遊んで、陳説を書き上げては人に読ませて回っているだけなんだから、寄生虫がどうのこうのという説以外にも UFO がどうこうとか地底人がどうこうなんていうとんでもないのまでたくさんだから、レナが読んだスクラップ帳は高野さん自慢の最新作でしかな。ほら、あの人って人をからかうみたいなところがあるだろう。レナが真面目に話を聞いてくれるもんだから面白がって。
単なる創作なら、しかも検視結果では死後24時間のはずなのに、富武さんの死因は、園崎家は、ひなみ沢の伝説、お社様は、リカちゃん、全部創作？世界中が
何でもかんでも無理につなげて解釈するな。古代妄想の典型的な症例じゃねえかよ。とにかく難しく考え。レナはちょっと疲れてるだから少し休もう。俺はレナにくつろげる部屋、食事が信用できないなら自前で好きにしてくれた。とにかく俺の言うことを。
私の言っている話の方が筋も通っているし、証拠も根拠もたくさん。なのに圭一君は自分を信じてくれの一点張り。どっちが正しいかなんて明白でしょ。
ああ、明白。俺が正しい。
よくそんなこと。
ああ、俺がレナの仲間だ。仲間を絶対に助け。だから世界中が俺を正しくないと言っても、今だけは俺がお前の仲。
I heard a thud. Reina dropped the hatchet. She staggered, holding her head in her hands. She was muttering something, and looked like she was asking herself questions. He wants me to trust him, but he has no evidence to prove he's right. He's being absurd. Or maybe he's right and I'm wrong. Am I really just misunderstanding everything? It would be wonderful if that was true. I wished I was wrong so many times. I wished Mio-san scrapbooks are nothing but a bunch of stories and the parasite doesn't exist. Some coincidences happened to connect together and I interpreted them in the wrong way. I really wish that was the case. Don't give up, Reina Ryugu. Be cool, Reina Ryugu. This guy has poison in his words. He's trying to take advantage of my weakness. Everything is too obvious not to believe. It's obvious that the aliens have been trying to invade the Earth using this village as their base ever since it was called Onagapuchi. Keiichi-kun is a victim who's being controlled by them. He's just a victim. But when he grabbed my wrist really hard on that day, I can tell his intentions were true. I still remember the strength of his grip on my wrist. He tried to save me, his friend. I got lost in this crazy delusional maze many times. I prayed over and over that somebody would help me. And now my prayers are answered, and Keiichi-kun is reaching for my hand again. But don't forget, Reina Ryugu. This guy says he's your friend, but he hasn't told you everything about himself. Don't you remember? Oishi-san told you about it. He told me about what he found. I couldn't trust my friends, so Oishi checked on everybody, including Keiichi-kun. That's why I know about what he did before he moved here. Oh? Oh? He looks like he's a good guy on the outside, but he's crazy on the inside. I can't trust him. I shouldn't trust him. So what? I don't care who he was before he moved here. I did many bad things in Ibaraki too. I did many unforgivable things. I hurt my friends really badly, broke the windows at the school, and was suspended. I was a very bad girl. Did he treat me differently because of that? No, he didn't. Reina Ryugu is Reina Ryugu. He'll forgive me because it was Reina Ryugu who did all those bad things in Ibaraki. He won't forgive me. I should know better. Keiichi, my brother, believes that I'm a kind and modest girl, but he doesn't know Reina. If he found out about Reina, what would he do? He wouldn't do anything. He wouldn't be scared of me. Reina is Reina. Reina is a different girl. The same goes with Keiichi-kun. I don't care who he was before he moved here. We're even.
大丈夫かレ
What
ナ
the fuck did Keiichi do? Because all we know about Keiichi is that, like, he had trouble with school and went to, like, cram school and whatnot. As far as that, that's really all we know about his life before he moved out here. At least that I can recall.
触るな汚らわしい
Reina knocked my hand aside when I reached for it. Yeah.
さっきから仲間だから信じ仲間だから世界中すべてよりそれこそ妄言じゃないか
なんと言われたって俺はお前のだから絶対にお前のためになることを言っている疑うな絶対に俺が正しい
へえじゃあ聞いてもいい
あ何でも聞け
仲間ってのは隠し事なんてないんだよね
当然だ隠し事なんかしない
嘘だよ
嘘なんかつかない
嘘だ
何が
圭一くん隠し通せてるつもり私圭一くんが引っ越してくる直前にどういうことしてたか知ってるんだよ
It felt as if my entire body was covered in frosty needles. My body and mind froze all of a sudden. I don't believe this. I don't believe this. How come she knows about that?
大石さんに調べてもみんなのことそしたら圭一くん
やめろあれは違うんだ
ずいぶん悪いことしてたみたいだねさとこちゃんとリカちゃんにも話しておかないとね
Hey, yo, what?
こんな危ない人が身近にいたなんて
違うそれは
児童連続襲撃事件すごいすごいひなみ沢村連続開始事件に負けないくらいインパクトあるよ
違うんだよ
何がどう数週間の間に人気のないところを歩く小さな子供ばかりを狙って、通りがかりにモデルガンで打ちつける恐ろしい事件だ市内一帯は一時期騒然 PTA が交差点ごとに立ち集団下校にもなったんだってね目に当たって大怪我した子も幸い後遺症にはならなかったそうモデルガンなんて武器を持ちながらそれでも小さな子しか狙わないそんなことして何が楽しかったのでも楽しかったからずっと続けてたんだよねそのくせ途中で両親の呵責に耐えられなくなって責任取るのもご両親と一緒じゃない少年法って親切よ被害者にも犯人の名前は公開されないしお父さんが大金持ちだったから示談金をたくさん積んでくれたんだよねそれで大ごとにしない約束を取り付けてまったりとしばらくは保護観察それでほとぼりが冷めた頃合いにお金に任せて遠方へ引っ越しして全部チャラ
Wow, okay. So this whole time Dad is convinced that, like, oh yeah, no, Keiichi's dad moved out here because, like, oh, I feel more, stimulated artistically when I'm out in like the mountains and whatnot. Like, yeah, we gotta move out to this village out here. It'll definitely help me with my work and whatnot. Yes, absolutely. When in reality, that was just his cover story to not make Keiichi think he did it because of him. Damn.
お金持ちは。
違うんだ。
そんなことどうして今まで黙ってたの？前の学校ではずっと勉強漬けだった？どうしてそんな嘘を？
嘘ってわけじゃ。
仲間ってのは隠し事なんかなしでしょ？そうでしょ？じゃあお前は仲間じゃない。
The blades of her words hit hard. They made my eyes bleed. Blood was clear and it tasted salty.
私も過去のそれを隠しきれてると思わないで。
I remember how deeply I regretted it. I couldn't regret enough. I wanted to forget it, but I couldn't. I made a stupid mistake. Why? Why does she have to bring it up right now? I apologized and accepted everything, and I moved here to put it behind me. I wanted to have a fresh start in Hinamizawa. I swore to myself to live a clean life from then on. Everything is ruined now. I'll be a criminal, no matter where I go. I was stressed out with my exam studies. I was frustrated. I randomly shot people. I didn't care if it was girls or kids. Why did I do something so stupid? There was no reason. I had no reason to do that. I just wanted to get someone's attention. I didn't have the courage to tell my parents I didn't want to study. I just wanted somebody to scold me, so I used a childish way to get attention. I regret what I did. I swear I'll never do something that stupid again. If I do it again, they can send me to the chair. If there's something I could do to be completely forgiven, I'd do it, no matter what it was. But no matter how deeply I regretted it, and no matter how long I atoned for my sin, I'll never be forgiven. That's why I wanted to sweep the whole thing under the carpet and have a fresh start. I have nothing to say if somebody tells me that forgetting my sin is an act of cowardice. Sins are sins. You can't just get rid of them. You have to carry them for the rest of your life. I know that's the fate of a sinner. If you don't want to live like that, don't be a sinner. I understand that logic too. But then, how are sinners supposed to live?
とにかくお前は仲間じゃないやつの指図は受ける言われはない。私のことは当分放っておいてもらう。いいね。
I didn't notice until she spoke that I was on my knees, hanging my head. Reina picked up the hatchet she dropped earlier. I wanted her to hit my head with it. Yeah, that's right. If anything's going to be torn apart, I'd rather it be my body. Compared to the pain of my heart being torn to shreds, I'd rather she cut my head off. I believed it. I still believe it. I still believe it right at this moment. I believe that I'm their friend. But in fact, I'm starting to become aware of it. I want to believe I am their friend because I don't want to accept my past. I'm trying to tell myself that, but I feel stupid crying like this. My face is all messy with tears. I was never their friend. I'm a sinner, and I hid my past from them. I hid it because I was scared. I told her that friends don't hide anything from another, and I hid my past from them. I hid my sin from them. My past has nothing to do with how I live my life here. If I ever attacked a kid in this village just because I was frustrated, I wouldn't mind it if they killed me and cut me into pieces. But I'll never do anything like that again. I just want to live normally. What I did before I moved here has nothing to do with my life now. For instance, Reina moved here too. I wouldn't change the way I see her, even if I found out she did something bad before she moved here. Right? I wouldn't, would I? Even if Reina beat some of her friends or broke all the windows of her school, I wouldn't care, because it happened in Ibaraki. She didn't do that in Hinamizawa. Reina's Reina. She's my best friend. That's why I wouldn't see her differently, even if I found out about her past. That's a lie. That's a lie. I'd keep a distance from her if I found out she really did such things. I'd be scared of her. I wouldn't try to listen to her. Why? It's just a rumor. Why would I be scared of her? She's my best friend. If I was in her situation, would I reject her just like she did? Yeah, that mirrors what happens in chapter 1, yeah. So Reina's rejection of me was completely natural. Then, what am I supposed to do? I was the only one crying. Reina wasn't crying. She looked at me as if she was looking at something dirty. After giving me a nasty look, she disappeared into the darkness. Reina didn't forgive me. There was nothing I could do to atone for my sin, but to keep crying, still down on my knees. God damn. That was definitely, a revelation I didn't see coming. Oh, the new tip, the reason we moved to Inamizawa, okay. Damn. I am kind of stunned by that. I guess this whole time I had never considered that Keiichi himself had some, backstory behind him like that. I guess in a way I just kind of blindly believed whatever was being told to me, like, oh yeah, that's why they moved. I never once questioned it. Interesting. I don't remember how many years ago it was. There was this beautiful village surrounded by nature, but the village was going to be submerged in water because of a new dam project, and the villagers protested against it en masse. They held a sightseeing tour so people from other places could enjoy the local beauty. I joined the tour out of simple curiosity. I wanted to take a look at the nature that might sink under the water. But when I got there, the place took my breath away. The air was so clean and clear, and the landscape was beautiful beyond words. Since then, I was hooked on the inspiring nature of the place. I fell in love with the village so much that I was very glad when I heard that the dam project was cancelled. That village is where I'm building our new house. When I visited there, I found a beautiful field of wildflowers. I saw 2 cute girls playing in that field. Both of them were very beautiful with long straight hair. They were probably neighbors or best friends. So I remember how they looked. One of them had a very beautiful face with a clear-cut profile for her age, and the other had a very pretty, innocent look. I'm sure both of them will grow up into fine, beautiful ladies in the future. They were running around in the field like they were dancing. I asked them if the field was their playground. They said they were playing in hopes that newcomers would move to the village. And I saw a sign saying, "Lot for sale." That was when I began to think that it might be a great place to live. There's nothing here, and things are a bit inconvenient compared to life in the city, but I sincerely believe this was the best place for us to start a new life together as a family. A lot of things happened back in the city, but the past is the past. It's best that we move on. We learn from our mistakes, and I hope we can start a new, more ideal life in this village. Keiichi, I hope you'll grow to love it here as much as I do. You do? I'm happy to hear that. I'm also happy that we've been doing a lot better as a family since we moved here. Back in the city, we were far from close. So I'm truly happy that we were able to start from scratch. Now that I come to think about it, I never had a chance to have a conversation with you like this before. Oh, Keiichi. You know any 2 beautiful girls with long straight hair in your school? I think they're a lot younger than you. Oh, you know 2 young beautiful girls, but one has short hair, huh? I don't think they're the ones I saw. You want to know why I asked? I just wanted to ask them to be models for my portraits. I was thinking about making them wear cute costumes. Basically, I just wanted to see them again for artistic reasons. So if you happen to see them, let your dad know, okay? Promise me, okay? Interesting. So, interesting. So the reason they moved to Hinamizawa wasn't entirely motivated by Keiichi's past, but definitely was a factor in it. They wanted to start a new life for Keiichi as well. Get away from everything going on in the city. But also he seemed to genuinely like Hinamizawa. At lunchtime the next day, everybody in class was talking about Reina's disappearance. We were all worried about her safety, but I kept a safe distance from everybody else.
レナはどこに行っちゃった？鬼隠しにあったなんて。まったく。
ケイイチさん、今日は元気がありませんでしたよ。みー。
Satsuko and Rikicha noticed something odd about my attitude.
俺は
Couldn't sleep at all last night because of what Reina told me. Friends don't keep secrets from one another. That sentence bit into my heart. I couldn't sleep because of the pain.
ミオ、サトコも話しておきたいことがある。
レナに関する。
いや、俺自身についてのことなんだ。
I decided to tell them about it because they were my friends, but I didn't know what I was expecting to change by doing so. They might despise me. Was there any benefit in telling them? No, there wasn't. I knew that for sure. I still wanted to tell them about it, just because I thought it'd help heal the pain I was feeling.
ケイイチさんのこと。
ああ、聞いてほしい。俺が引っ越してくる前のことなんだ。当時の俺は勉強しか脳のないやつだった。
I learned the tricks of the game called studying at my cram school. I enjoyed the sense of superiority I felt by getting good grades. I kept studying just because I wanted to look down on the other students. When my grades got better, my parents got happier, and my teachers praised me. It felt good. It was fun to look down on the students who were good at running, dodgeball, or swimming. That was the only reason I kept studying. Before I knew it, not only was I the top of my class, I was the top of my school. So I started to think I was the most important student there. I looked down on the kids who were playing in the schoolyard during a lunch break. I enjoyed feeling a sense of superiority to them in my insignificance. The more I studied, the better everybody expected me to do. Damn, that's kind of crazy. Because, like, you never expect, like, the nerd to be the bully, you know? Like, the nerd who got so good at studying, they felt the need to, harass and attack people who didn't study. They started to place high hopes on me. They expect me to go to the best school in Japan. I flattered myself thinking I deserved to go to that school as well. But the fun went out of looking down on people while the burden of studying didn't change a bit. My classmates stopped admiring my cleverness after a while, and my teacher started to push me to study even more. All of a sudden, the fun had gone out of it. To begin with, I didn't even like to study. I had average reflexes, I was average in a fight, I was an average boy with nothing that really drew attention, so when I found something I could use to get that attention, I jumped on it. It happened to be studying for me, but if it was riding a unicycle or juggling, I would have done that too. When I realized I didn't enjoy studying anymore, it got very boring. I was just a little boy who wanted to be praised when I did something better than anybody else. I finished all of my summer homework because my parents praised me for it, and I took charge of cleaning duties at school because my teachers praised me for it. So when they stopped praising me for what I did, I began to feel as though my life had no meaning. My parents used to give me an allowance that was proportional to how good my grades were, so I used to get a substantial amount of money for my age. I don't know if I had a natural interest in violence or if I was looking for it because of my frustration at the time. I took an interest in BB guns. At first, I shot at cardboard boxes. It was fun. Being violent at pieces of cardboard relieved a lot of stress. Nobody blamed me for doing that. But soon I started wanting to do something I should have never done. On the box that my BB gun came in was a warning label that read, "Do not shoot at people." That was when I thought about doing just that. Why did I do something I shouldn't have? I guess I was just immature. I wasn't interested in studying anymore, but I forced myself to do so anyway. My parents forced me to go to several cram schools. I was mad at them for that. I should have told them I didn't want to study anymore, but I didn't have the courage to do that. So I used my frustration as an excuse to do something cowardly. I shot at kids who were younger than I was with my BB gun. It gave me such a thrill. It felt so good to do something bad when I was so overcome with studying. Needless to say, I had no personal grudge against the kids I shot. As long as the kids passed through a deserted street, they met the requirements to become my target. I didn't mean to hurt them. I shot at them once or twice from a distance. That's all I wanted to do. But sometimes they didn't react at all because the BBs hit a thicker part of their clothes or something. I didn't like that, so I started to shoot until they noticed they were being hit. It inevitably escalated into a barrage of gunfire. I study a lot. I'm doing something good. So I deserve to do something bad to balance out the good thing I'm doing. That was the unbelievably selfish excuse I made. I thought I had a right to do things like that because I was suffering myself. I thought people who weren't suffering like I was deserved to be shot at and to get hurt a little bit. I was so selfish, so arrogant, so immature. I was disgusted with myself. If I could have met myself at that time, I would have given myself a punch in the face so hard that I'd knock out all my teeth. They started to call it a series of attacks on school children. The principal of my school held a morning assembly to inform everyone about the case, to warn them to be careful when playing outside. I was laughing sneakily. The PTA issued a letter of warning and advice to take the safest way to and from school. Parents took turns watching kids when they walked between home and school in groups. The more serious it got, the more it reminded me of the excitement I first felt when my grades started going up. I was absorbed in that game I was playing. I didn't think that I'd get caught someday. I didn't even think to stop doing it either. One day, I found a little girl who was walking down a narrow dark street all alone. She was a very small girl. I don't know if she was on her way to her friend's house or if she was running an errand. I didn't care which. It was careless of her to go out alone. School had warned her not to. So it was her fault. Just like always, I made a selfish excuse and attacked her. Some of the shots hit her in the back. She noticed she was attacked by somebody. She turned around. It was a natural reaction. At that time, I didn't hesitate to rain hell upon her. So when she turned around, I was still shooting at her. Usually when I shot at a kid, she cried in pain and ran away. But this girl was different. She thrashed around in excruciating pain, holding one of her eyes. When I saw her doing that, I realized what happened right away. The BB had hit her in the eye. Until that moment, I didn't think about what would happen when a pellet that could easily go through a cardboard box hit an eyeball. Anyway, the girl howled in pain. For the first time, I realized I had done something horrible. She saw me, so I couldn't take her to a hospital. Couldn't do anything about it. So I left her there while she was still screaming in pain. Fuck. That's fucked up. Damn. Just totally fucking abandoned a young girl in a fucking dark alley. Jesus. I wondered if she was okay, and I worried that she had lost her eye. I kept thinking about her. I didn't even feel like eating that day. I went to the bookshelf in our living room, stuck a medical book to my room, and studied the structure of the human eye. It was too late to make a difference, but I studied what kind of injuries would make a person lose their vision. I knew it wouldn't make the sin I committed weigh any less, even if I found out that she wouldn't lose her sight. I couldn't sleep that night, and I suffered from a high fever. It wasn't my parents, my teachers, or the police who first punished me for what I did. It was my own body. Before dawn, I woke my parents up and confessed to my sin. They were shocked at first. It seemed like they understood the situation quickly due to my recent disobedient behavior and my interest in BB guns. My mom cried hysterically. My dad slapped me in the face till it swelled up. Before the sun came up, I turned myself into the police, accompanied by my parents. Satoko stared at me with a stunned expression. I deserved to receive that kind of look. What I did was very wrong, and I needed to accept that.
それ
ああ、本当だ。今まで隠していて。
なんでそんなことを今頃になってわざわざ言おうと思ったわけ？
Mion asked me. Rika-chan nodded in agreement.
本音から言うとケイちゃんどうしたの？
まあ、そりゃそうだよ。
違うよ。そんなことわざわざ言い出す必要あっ？
いや、隠し事をするなんて、俺は。だから、もう隠してなん。
圭一は
期待、俺はただ。
許しが欲しくても圭一が怪我をさせた。だから僕たちに理科の言う潔いのは認めますけれど、そんなことを私たちに打ち明けてどうしたいって、
ただ仲間に隠し事は。
My friends looked annoyed by the sudden confession of my past. I took it as bitter medicine. I got what I deserved.
ケイちゃんさ、ちょいとここで質問なんだけど、仲間に隠し事ってしたらいけないわけ？
え？
ケイちゃんの論法だと隠し事をしないのが仲間。おじさんはそんなの嫌だね。
僕も嫌です。
Mion and Rika-chan obviously disagreed with my statement. Satoko nodded, following suit.
言いたくないことを言わないで何が悪いわ。人には話したくないことや辛いこと、悲しいこと、失敗したことや思い出したくないことがたくさんある。それを全部打ち明けないと仲間と呼べないんなら、私はそんな仲間はいらないね。
でも
ケイチ、打ち明けなくていいことと打ち明けなくてはならないこと。罪は許しを得るために打ち明けなくてはならん。でも打ち明けて許された罪は、そうです。だってケイチさんはちゃんとおまわりさんのところに行って、それで償いをして許してもらえたなら、それでケイチ
自首してその結果を受け入れたなら、それでもちろんケイちゃんが罪の十字架を二度と過ちを繰り返さないよう常に。でもね、それはケイちゃんが自戒することであって、打ち明けなくちゃいけないことではない。
そうですわよ。過去の恥ずかしい話なんかは私も内緒にしたいことがたくさんございましたよ。さとこは特にいっぱいいっぱいありますのです。私だけ。リカもですわよ。リカもですわよ。みーみーみー。
Satsuko and Riki-chan fooled around with each other like they always did. Mion looked at them and then looked back at me.
今ケイちゃんにはどの
過去の話は内緒にしたい。
違う、その次の部分。誰にだってあるってところだ。無菌室の試験管の中で育った人間でもない限り、人の人生は試行錯誤の繰り返しだと思う。いいことも悪いこともいろいろなことを繰り返して成長して、それで最後の最後に素晴らしい人間になれればいいんじゃない？いいことも悪いことも全てとても大切な経験なんだと思う。それは誰でも同じで、ケイちゃんだけじゃない。いやいや、クラスの全員にも当てはまることなんだよ。
例えばミーはもっと昔は札付きの悪猫さんだったのです。にゃーにゃ
ーまあ本当はあんまり言いたかないんだけど、私から見ればモデルガンで闇討ちなんてかわいい。私なんかレンガとか投げつけてたよ。いやほんと
Hell yeah.
警察に何度お世話になったことやら、ダム戦争の最中はちょっとした留置場常連だったよ。いやいや本当に。
でも昔のことなのですよ。そしてそれを仲間であってもなのです。
仲間であっても。
私だってとても言えないような苦い過ちや罪がいくつ。でも言わないのは言っても仕方がないからですわ。
言って楽になるなら私たちは聞くよ。でもね、仲間だから言わなければならないなんてルールはない。むしろ仲間なら言いたくない過去を察してあえて聞かないのが。
それはそうだけど。
ケイちゃんが打ち明けて楽になったなら、それ私たちは今日の話をすぐにでも忘れる。それに今日の話を聞いたからケイちゃんとの接し方を変えるようなこともない。
ケイイチが前の町でしたことなんて今のケイイチと何の関係もないのです。今のケイイチが僕たちにとってかけがえのない仲間であるのなら、リカの言う通りでございます。逆に前の町でどんなに善行を積もうともこちらに来て嫌な人だったなら、前の町の善行なんかしたことじゃありませんわね。
ってことはさ、前の町での十字架はケイちゃんが密かに胸に秘めることであって、こっちでわざわざ口にする必要なんてないんじゃない？いや、仮に口にしてもだ。それでケイちゃんの見方を変える程度のやつだったら、私は
過去が何だろうと今が素晴らしい人間であるならば、どうして恥じること。もし過去の過ちを一生取り戻せなかったら、私たちは何のために生き続けますの？サトコは過去にとても甘えん坊さんでした。それを後悔して今はこんなにも元気で頑張っていますのです。だから僕は今のサトコはとても素晴らしいと思いますです。昔どうだったかなんて。僕はリカ。
ケイちゃんだってどうよ。例えば私が留置場常連の札付きだとしたら、私への見方を変える？変えないでしょ。私は私。いつものように楽しくふざけ合える関係は、それが仲間ってもんだもん。
What? What's going on? Mion is trying to cheer me up with an encouraging smile on her face, but her expression became distorted all of a sudden. Big teardrops fell from my eyes. Oh. I was like, what do you mean? Her expression seems fine. I got you. What? Why am I crying?
先に言っとく。俺はサトシのことは何も知らない。みんなが隠してたからな。
隠してたってわけじゃ。
毎年起こる事件のこと
それはケイちゃんを
怖がらせたくなかった。それが理由で俺だけの。
いや、そんなつもりじゃ。
ミオンに直にミオンはないってバラバラ殺人があったのに嘘つき野郎。
ごめん、嘘ってわけじゃ。
仲間ってのは隠し事なんかなしだ。そうだ。じゃあお前らは仲間じゃない。
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because that's been a big part of like this story has kind of been, whereas chapter 5 was like seeing, you know, chapter 2 from a different perspective. Chapter 6 has kind of been like almost like a repeat, not quite a repeat, but like a very similar story to chapter 1, but like Reina is the one who feels isolated from everyone. So yeah, which is very interesting that all of a sudden Keiichi's having these memories. If he is, that is. Or if this is just them flashing it back to us like, hey, remember this moment? Remember when Keiichi was acting that way? They were my true friends. They really cared about me. They were so nice to me and helped me feel all at home in this village. I couldn't have been happier. Everything was great, wasn't it?
ケイちゃん、
Mion,
そんなのって。
Mion seemed like she didn't know what to say. Her eyes looked moist. It was hard to believe she was really acting like this. It wasn't like Mion at all. I could feel her pain. She was in pain because she didn't know what I was blaming her for. She looked so sad. But I didn't notice her pain. I thought I was her friend. I didn't understand her feelings. I didn't trust her. I just used the word friends, but I didn't do anything like what friends were supposed to do.
そうだった。ミオンはミオンだった。どうしてミオンをどうして。
ケイちゃんさ、最近元気ないよね。
都会から引っ越してきたんだもん。きっと今頃になってそれで風邪をひいたんじゃないかな。
Mm-hmm.
そっかそっか。じゃあ栄養をつけさせてあげ。バッチャが今日おはぎを作ってるんだよ。いくつか分けてもらってケイちゃんへのお見舞いにでもしてあげるか。
ほんなみよ。おいやレナちゃん一つ。
へえ、レナもよいしょよいしょ。
そうだそうだ、いいこと思い。
何みーちゃん。その小瓶何か。
甘いおはぎだけじゃ退屈しちゃうだろう。うち一つにはクリティカルヒットでタバスコを混ぜておいてあげよう。
Oh my god. Oh my god. He felt a pain on his tongue. And because he was so hyper paranoid at that time, he believed it was a needle. And that's why when he calls fucking Oishi about it, Oishi's like, oh, can you provide me the needle? Do you have the needle that we can like use as evidence, right? Do you have like the needle that they put in the food? And he searched over the house and like cannot find it because there was never any fucking needle. One of them was just fucking spicy. Oh my god. Oh my god. Fuck. So yeah, it really seems that in chapter 1, Keiichi was just delusional. He was essentially in Reina's shoes where she is now, but with like less murder. So I can only imagine then that Reina and Mion were genuinely trying to help him. And he fucking attacked. Oh, that's fucking sad, dude. That reframing of chapter 1 is so fucking depressing then. Because they were genuinely trying. The way they're framing it now is like they were genuinely trying to help him, but he was just too far gone and just refused to believe that they could actually be his friends. And he fucking killed them. God damn. Ha ha ha. They brought Ohagi for me to help me get better. They only tried to cheer me up. Why did I get so scared of them? Just because Mion knew I had lunch at Angel Mort, I grew terrified of her.
圭一君、顔色悪いよ。もう横になった方がいいと思うな。
そうだね。私たちはもう帰ろう。
They just wanted to cheer me up with a joke. Because I look so serious.
じゃあね、ケイちゃん。
Please get better soon. Hope we can hang out in the club together tomorrow. That was a normal way of saying goodbye.
明日、学校休んじゃ嫌だよ。
First of all, have I ever visited any of my classmates who were absent with a cold? No, I haven't. I've never done such a nice thing to anybody because it's too much of a bother. But they did that for me. I understand visiting a friend in a hospital, but I just caught a cold. But they came to visit me with Ohagi so that I could get better soon. I should have been thankful to them and said, I'll get better soon, I'm sure I can come to school tomorrow. So I'll see you then. That was what I was supposed to say. But what did I do instead? I locked the door. I closed the door and locked it as if rejecting them. What was I so scared of? What was I so afraid of? God damn it. And that makes fucking Reina's see when she's like standing out in the rain saying she's sorry over and over again, knowing that there was genuinely no ill intent from her. Fuck, dude. I was already like kind of depressed by that scene, but knowing that there was genuinely no ill intent and she just genuinely wanted to help. She wanted to come in and fucking just cook him a meal and be nice to him. Like, oh, fuck, dude. Come on. Why didn't I say any words of appreciation to my friends who cared about me? I was just so scared of the Ohagi they brought for me. What was I thinking? It was impossible that there was a needle in one of them. There wasn't actually a needle at all. It was all in my head because I had read some manga about someone putting needles or razor blades in people's food. It scared me so much that I believed it could also happen to me for some reason. I thought there was a needle in the Ohagi. You were so stupid, Keiichi. Why would your friends put a needle in food they only brought to make you get better? It was crazy to think like that. Even if there was a needle in one of them, I should have thought it was some kind of mistake and I should have believed in my friend's innocence. That's what a true friend would do. What did I do? I threw the Ohagi that they spent so much effort making on the floor. Why? Why did I do that? I got along so well with them. I moved to Inamizawa and I made friends for the first time in my life. They were my best friends. Meeting them was the most wonderful experience of my life. I'd probably never have another one like that for the rest of my days. I knew that, but I got scared, and I doubted them. They noticed that I was acting odd. That's why they called the manager, Irie. They thought a sedative might help me relax so I could rest and get better. That's why they carried me up to my room. Mion just wanted to make it fun. She's the kind of person who expresses her goodwill by making a joke out of it. I knew that better than anybody. She knew Irie would roll up my shirt to check my heartbeat with a stethoscope. So she was just trying to draw graffiti on my shirt, just like she did to Tomotaki-san as punishment for the game he lost. Yeah, that's why Mion took a felt marker out of her pocket. A felt marker. She brought a marker from home because she just wanted to do something funny. Oh my fucking god. You've got to be fucking me. You've got to be fucking with me, dude. She never had a syringe in the first place? Bro. Bro. Man, the way this recontextualizes chapter 1, fuck. It almost made me, like, that's gotta be, with this new information, that's gotta be damn near the most depressing fucking chapter then. Which is crazy considering all the shit that happens in chapter 3 that genuinely breaks my fucking heart, but like, fuck. knowing that he was just surrounded by people who were genuinely trying to do right by him, who were genuinely not even do right by him, but just genuinely trying to help him, or just genuinely trying to be there for him, for this guy who had just moved into town. So they wanted to show they were friendly and reach out and be nice to him and whatnot. And his paranoia and his delusions got the better of him, and he ended up fucking killing 2 of them. Dude, that is so fucking fucked. God damn. Fuck. She tried to cheer me up by making me take a punishment for fun rather than nursing me, because that's just what Mion is like. She went to the trouble of bringing a felt marker to my house, just because she wanted to cheer me up. Reina held me down tightly and Mion came closer to me to write something on my shirt. Mion whispered the words she was going to write on my shirt. I heard them. I heard them clearly. I heard what she was going to write on my shirt. I hope you get well soon, Mion. I heard them. Then why? I should have known she wasn't going to do anything to hurt me. Then why? Why? Why did the marker look like a syringe to me? Why did I think that Mion was going to kill me? It was impossible. It was impossible. Why? Why did I misunderstand what Mion was going to kill me? Ah! The numbness in my head receded, and slowly, I felt blood start to run through my entire body again. How long was I squatting down there? For a few minutes? Or a lot longer than that? As I looked up at the clock, the hands weren't moving at all, as if they had stopped while my eyes had closed. Really? The atmosphere in the room wasn't filled with insanity like it was earlier, but it was quiet and gray. Reina wasn't holding me down. Mion wasn't about to give me an injection. Was all of that just some kind of illusion? There was no sense of presence other than myself in that room. It was an extraordinary experience, the kind I'd never had before. I was there, with Reina and Mion. I doubted my sanity for a moment, but at the same time I felt some kind of relief too. The scary incident was just an illusion after all. Neither Reina nor Mion would have done such a terrible thing to me. Tears started forming in my eyes. My emotions were running high. Why? It wasn't a question of why tears were forming in my eyes. Why? It was a question of my sadness. Why did I feel so sad? Okay, so, that's interesting. It's like he's feeling the emotions of, a past Keiichi. I don't know. You don't know? What do you mean you don't know? You do know! I was so stupid. What the hell was I doing? I was so pathetic and helpless. Mion just tried to cheer me up. That was all. I liked her so much. She was my best friend. She was older than me, but she hung out with me like we were the same age. She was the first one who came to talk to me in class. She was so nice to me, but Mion was lying down in an unnatural position near the window. She was covered in dusky red blood from her head to her chest. The red fluid splattered on the wall was Mion's. What had I done? What had I done? I would never forgive myself.
俺、みんなのこと、本当に友達だと思ってたんだぜ。
Why did all this happen? There was nothing fun in my life at my old school. When I talked to anyone, it was only ever about my chances of passing the entrance exam of the schools we wanted to go to. My life was shaded in gray. Friends to me were rivals and enemies to vie with for a school recommendation and test scores. My friends here taught me just how unnatural that was. This whole month was a blast. We raised the roof over lunch, our club activities, and the festival. Warm liquid flowed out from my eyes. To my surprise, it was my tears. I didn't have any obligation to cry for them, but I couldn't stop it. Even though they attempted to kill me, even though they almost killed me, I couldn't forget the memories we made during the past month. Or were those fun days fake? Was it an act that they kept playing perfectly to set me up until today? Was it only me who believed that they were my friends? Couldn't be. Reina and Mion, they were my friends for real. Those happy days couldn't have been just a performance. Reina and Mion must have been forced by somebody to kill me. Or that an extraordinary existence called Oyashiro-sama possessed them and took over their consciousnesses. No matter what it was, both Reina and Mion were my best friends. I was stupid. I was such a fool. I wasn't making any sense at all. I killed my best friends. They were my best friends. Then why didn't I trust them? Why didn't I listen to them? I beat them to death. Who did I think I was? I made it sound like I didn't do anything wrong. Felt like everybody went crazy except me. I was such a fool. It was the other way around. Of course it was. I was the only one who went crazy.
ケイちゃん
俺はなんてことをしてしまっなんてこと
Mion was still alive. I have a memory of beating her to death because I couldn't trust her, but that's a memory from a non-existent different world. But even though it happened in a different world, I killed Mion. I didn't realize how deep that sin was. I even thought until now that Mion was at fault for being killed.
どうしたんですのケイチさん。
わかんない。ケイちゃん、落ち着いて。私は生きてるよ。ケイちゃんになんか殴り殺されてたまらかってんの。ねえ。
そうです。ケイチさんごときに遅れを取るようなのは
違うんだ。違うんだ。
Mion and Satsuko look confused, having no idea why I was crying. Meanwhile, Rika, the one who's also experiencing like these time loops and shit, is just kind of like sitting back and observing, just like I couldn't help myself. I learned just now that I could earn redemption by confessing my sin, but I could never earn redemption for this. Not from Mion. Right, because part of what I think it was what Satsuko said is like you have to confess to the people you did wrong by. And even though this is Mion, it's not the same Mion that you did wrong by. No matter how much I cried in this world, nobody could give me forgiveness. And so, I could never earn redemption for this sin. Right then, Chie-sensei came in and noticed me crying. You wouldn't see a teenage boy crying like that very often. Chie-sensei asked me what was going on, but at that moment I couldn't hear anything. Mion and Satsuko looked confused. They didn't know how to explain the situation. Rika-chan approached me in the midst of my sobs.
ケイチはレナとミーを殺したことを。
そうだ、俺が殺したんだ。なのに俺は何の罪も認めずに死ぬ最後の瞬間まで血がいっぱいで、結局何の後悔もなく一人で勝手に死んだ。
I clawed at my itchy throat in a phone booth. I didn't notice my sin, and I died alone.
ケイチ、あなたの罪に気づきましたのです。
気づいた。こんなにも今頃になってここじゃない別のよく似た世界。俺はなぜか仲間たちはなぜそれに耳を傾けられなかった。どうしてだよ。
I didn't care if people were staring. I just kept crying. I wanted to transmute my sin to tears in order to squeeze it out of me. But the tears that were coming out from my eyes weren't my sin. They were just tears of regret for doing something irreversible. At that time, I felt something touching my head. I opened my eyes and saw Rika-chan patting my head gently. I didn't need any comfort. I didn't deserve any comfort from Rika-chan. But the words she spoke to me weren't ones of comfort.
ケイチを許しましょう。ケイチはそれはとても偉くて、だから誰もケイチの偉さがわからなくて、でも僕にはケイチの凄さがわかるのです。
リカちゃん、
私はこれが奇跡であることがわかる。だってあなたが、なのにそれはきっとこの地上に具現するどんな奇跡すらも霞むほどのもので、信じられないくらい尊いもの。
I didn't understand anything Riki-chan was saying, but I felt like she's the only one who understood that impossible memory I had.
なら今のあなたにな、竜宮レナが。
ああ、あの時の俺と同じなんだ。仲間のことを信じたくて信じられないんだ。どんどん自分がおかしくなっていくのに、そいつがわからなくて世界の方がおかしくなったって信じてやがるんだ。どうすりゃ救えるかなんてわからねえ、わからないんだ。だって俺はダメだった。結局死ぬまで、死んでも気づけなかったんだ。それをレナに気づかせるなんてどうやって。救えないよ、救えない。俺がそうだったからよくわかるんだ。どうやったってもう救えないんだ。
Calm down, Keiichi. I did fail. That didn't mean Reina would too. There's no excuse not to save her because I thought she'd fail. After all, what did Reina do back then? I was totally going mad, but she risked her life to save me. In my room, in that world, I'd beaten her many times with a metal bat. But she was smiling. She knew I was scared, and that's why she smiled for me. I beat her so many times. Her arms were broken, and her forehead was cut open. I remembered. Reina didn't block her head. Even at the very last moment, she opened her arms toward me, like she was looking for a hug. God damn it. Holy fuck, dude. Wow. Okay. But I still doubted her. Raised the metal bat up high. Reina told me then that it was okay.
私を信じて。
Ah. God damn. My friend still told me to believe in her. She told me to trust her. But I still didn't. I lost it and attacked her. She was in danger. She was actually killed. She didn't even block her head. Instead, she used her arms to reach out for me. Reina continued to say those words until the moment she died. Trust me. Please, trust me. She risked her life to save me. Until her very last moments, she kept telling me to believe in her. But I didn't listen. For so long, I truly believed that I didn't do anything wrong.
リカちゃんに許してもらえて。でもやっぱり俺の罪は、レナの目は俺が覚ます。
Reina risked her life to save me. She cared about me until her very last moments. She trusted me. She believed that her words would reach my heart, so she kept saying them. Until I cracked her skull. I don't care if I die. Reina died for me. I can die for her too. I was such a fool for failing to understand my friend's feelings. That's why I didn't understand what she was saying. But Reina might be different.
この世界はもう、でもだからといって諦めていいなんてことはねえんだよ。諦めるってことは信じないってことだ。俺はレナを、仲間の絆を信じるぜ。だから まだ間に合うんだ。惨劇は回避できる。運命には抗える。俺たちはあがく、そして掴めるんだ。そ
Rika-chan nodded with a serious look on her face. She put her hand in the pocket of her skirt.
ケイイチ、私もこの世界から私は勝ったから、競ったから、もうレナがどうなろうと知ったことではないと。でもそれは間違い。戦おうとする意志がこんなにも美しく神々しくて、だから私はもう一度戦おう。何度でも戦おう。その先の未来に至れるまで。リカとケイチさんが
Yeah, no
何の
shit.
話をしてるのか
Satoko
さっ
and
ぱり
Mio
わ
just
かりま
sitting
せ
there
んで
like,
したよ。
what the fuck are they talking about, dude?
覚えていないのはとケイチが私の高尚な脳みそではさっぱりでしたよ。
Rika-chan touched Satoko's forehead to hers.
でもあなたが抗えぬ不幸の袋小路にとらわれた時、ケイチはあなたを救おうと全身全霊をかけて戦ってくれたこと。ケイチさんがですの？眉唾でございますわよ。ね、ケイチ。
Rika-chan looked at me, smiling as if waiting for my agreement. I wasn't sure if I could risk my life for Satoko. No, I was sure. I'd risk my life for her. Satoko's my friend. If anybody tried to make her unhappy, I'd beat them up without hesitation. I'd risk my life to save her. Might have even been a world like that. I nodded to Rika-chan. Rika-chan nodded back to me, looking happy.
前原くん、何かありましたか？
Chie-sensei realized that I'd finally calmed down and she asked me
い
that.
え、騒がせて、それより、ミオ。
Yeah.
何？
I walked towards her. Mion stepped back, not knowing what was going on. She bumped into the blackboard.
何？マジな顔でどうしたの？
I held Mion tightly. Hell yeah. I love giving the homies hugs. She still didn't know what was going on, and her face turned red. Crying on her shoulder, I told her the following.
すまなかった。
何がよ、ケイちゃん。おじさん、本当に何のことかわかん
なくてもいい。わかんなくてもいいから。本当にすまなかった。うまかったぜ。元気が出た。だから。俺、明日からちゃんと学校に通えるから。また明日も、学校で会おうなって。それが、言えなくて。今日まで、感謝の言葉が遅れて、本当にすまなかった。俺はミオンを、いや、二度と疑わない。二度とだ。だから、ミオン。あの日の俺を、どうか許してくれ。
Mion must have had no idea what I was talking about. Of course, I didn't either. I didn't understand what I was talking about. But my sin wasn't forgiven yet. I needed to confess my sin in order to receive
ミオン
forgiveness.
が命を懸けてくれたから。いつかミオンに何かの不幸が訪れたら、俺は絶対に命を懸けて助けるからな。絶対だ。
ケイちゃん？照れるな。
Mion's face was bright red. She didn't know what was going on. Satoko's blushing too, with a confused look on her face. But Rika-chan and I understood everything. We weren't going to accept a tragedy. We couldn't give up just because the world was going out of order. We were going to fight against fate to the very last moment. Mion fought for me. Reina fought for me. That's why I was going to fight for Reina. Just like she did for me. I was going to risk my life to save her. Jesus fuck. You know, on the last video someone had commented something like, man, you're not even through seeing all the revelations this chapter has to offer. And I'm like, I mean, I kind of figured as much, but like, damn. I didn't realize it'd be something like this, man. Fuck, that's crazy. This shit is wild. The summit was being held at a traditional Japanese restaurant in Shishibane City. When a black car stopped in front of it, 3 burly cops got out of it, followed by Oishi. They were welcomed by Sonozaki Corps members in equally black suits. It was something you didn't see every day.
今日はお招きいただきまして遅刻しちゃって申し訳ないですね。
お客人、どうぞこちらへ。
Interesting. There was a sign saying reserved at the entrance. Oishi and his subordinates were taken inside. They walked through the restaurant's pretentious landscape garden and they came to the gorgeous Japanese-style entrance. A woman in a kimono was waiting at the entrance, as was Kasai. Upon seeing the police officers, they stopped chatting and bowed deeply. The woman in the kimono was Mion's mother, Akane.
いやーどうも園崎社長。本日はお招きをいただきありがとうございます。
ようこそいらっしゃい。ご多忙中のはるばるのお越し、心より。
いえ。今日はごちそうになりますし、ここの料亭は湯葉が有名ですからね。ね、どんなごちそうか楽しみです。それから葛西さんもお久しぶり。直接会うのはだいぶ久しぶりになりますね。
ご無沙汰をいたしております。
まあなんかこの度はお互い戦争状態に突入しちゃってるようですが、こっちゃ全面戦争はいつ？い
え、そのようなつもりは毛頭。
そりゃこちらもやりたかはないです。あんたが粘ると血の雨が降るって評判ですからね。私もいい年なんで、もう流血沙汰はごめんしたいところです。
Obviously, this was a meeting between people who hated each other. The tension in their words indicated that it wasn't likely to be a friendly meeting.
それではどうぞこちらへ。
主催自らのご案内いた。
そうそう。招待状の名前は私で出させていただきましたが、訳あって招待状の
本家。防弾チョッキを着に戻ってもいいですかね。ね。
On the other side of the door, there were several tables, and Mion was sitting at one of them. Since Mion was still young, her school uniform functioned as her formal dress. Still, it looked strange with both the police and the Corps members in black suits.
これはどうも。園崎家の次期当主のお嬢。今日はお招きくださり光栄です。
本日はようこそ。まずはおかけになってください。
Mion politely welcomed the police, undaunted even though they were older than her parents. Mion gave Kasai a look and he tapped on the door. The waitresses, who had been waiting behind the door, started bringing out drinks.
おいさん、一体こりゃ何のつもりっすかね。
さてね、まあここは舌鼓を打たせてもらいましょう。ここの湯葉は有名ですよ。
They started drinking, but the tension continued for a while. Mion made the waitresses and the other members of the Sonozaki Corps leave the room, and soon only Oishi and his subordinates, Mion, Akane, and Kasai were left in the room.
さて、今日はどういうお話ですかな？
Akane nodded and began speaking.
本日は皆さんとの間に生じている誤解について。発端はとてもさまつでございます。よってこの度の件は葛西辰義と龍宮玲奈個人間のこと。園崎組は関与しておりません。
個人的事情。片木の龍宮さんと極道の葛西さんにどういう個人的な接点が生じるっていう。
葛西。
はい、僭越ながらご説明させていただきます。
Kasai told the police officers that he happened to meet Reina at a coffee house in Okonomiya. He explained that Reina found something he lost there and that she'd offered to bring it back to him.
ちょいと無理が。まあ100歩譲って。その後がちょいとおかしくないですかね。龍宮玲奈を探して組の若い連中が動員されてるって聞。
それに関しまして、龍宮玲奈さんが遅くになっても帰宅されないのを家人が心配されていたので。ああ、
こんな割烹まで呼び出して、あんたうちらの商売をなめてんの？
She looked a lot more like a member of the Yakuza than the real Yakuza did. She threatened them with a nasty smile, and it piled all the more tension onto the atmosphere in the room.
おいさん、まあまあ。
Kumagai tried to make him stand down. Officers with hot tempers pair with others who are good at calming them down, just like how Yakuza do. Oishi backed off with a grin. Kumagai took over, continuing from there.
それで竜宮レナと葛西達義の個人的問題だから民事に介入するなとおっしゃりたいわけで、そういうわけには竜宮レナは警察で保護させていただきます。
Mion opened her mouth for the first time in a while.
警察は竜宮レナを保護なさる理由をお聞かせください。
そりゃあんたらが狙ってるからだよ。
Oishi answered bluntly. But Mion remained nonchalant. It must have made him all the more annoyed.
どうして東方が？
そりゃあんたの胸に気合いだろう。ご自分のその胸に。
おいさん、本日はもちろん耳を貸されないのもまた。
ほう。我々が何の誤解を。
竜宮レナの持っている高野美代のスクラップ帳についてある重大な誤解をされております。
The officer's expressions grew stern all at once. All of a sudden, she had gotten straight to the point.
竜宮レナの保護は
Oishi and his subordinates glared back at her without saying a word, making it obvious that her guess was right.
葛西
Akane gave him a look and he left the room. However, he shortly returned, carrying a black suitcase. Every one of the officers assumed that there was a tremendous amount of money in the suitcase and that the Sonozaki family was trying to buy them off. Kasai opened the suitcase and showed the contents to the police.
高野美代のスクラ残念ながら竜宮レナに手渡したと思われるものはこれを本日の魚にいたそうかと。お話は必要でしたら人払いもさせましょう。
いえ、それには及びません。
Cops produced latex gloves from their pockets, put them on, and took one of the scrapbooks out of the suitcase. There were more than 10 of them in there.
それらは高野美代の死亡の際に沖宮の自宅から発見したものです。
Oishi and the others desperately turned the pages of the well-thumbed scrapbooks.
間違いありません。
おいさん、もしこれらに類するものを
おそらくは竜宮レナが持つスクラップ帳もそれらに類する内容でしょう。
Oishi looked stunned by the contents of the scrapbooks. He started turning the pages faster, then closed the scrapbook roughly.
ここにあるスクラップ帳、全部がこんな中身なんですか？
ええ、納得ゆくまでご覧ください。
The other officers also rapidly turned through pages. They weren't reading them, just flipping through. They took one scrapbook from the suitcase after another and flipped through the pages roughly.
おいさん、たちの悪いオカルト小説ですよ。冥界と現世が激突して霊魂が流入した？これを証拠として採用しろって言うんすか？
ああ、そっちは俺のは地底人の仕業って書いてあるよ。
This one is about classified weapons of the Nazis. This one is about the legacy of the Mu continent. That one is about Aussie, the mysterious creature known in the Gahuchi swamp.
おそらく竜宮レナが持つスクラップ帳には皆さんもよくご存知の寄生虫説が記されているのだろうと察し。
The police were dumbfounded. They couldn't believe what they were seeing. The other officers were shooting glances at Oishi. They hadn't said anything to him, but they never really believed in the story of the parasite, let alone the bioterrorism. But Oishi had believed it, and told him he had proof. None of the scrapbooks in front of them said anything about parasites, but it was easy to assume the contents of one scrapbook were no different in nature from another. In other words, all of them were just crappy occult novels. Oishi appeared unable to accept the fact that was facing him, but now that he was actually looking at it, it was too difficult to ignore. Mio Takano was an occult geek who had laughable ideas about the legend of Onogahuchi, but Reina took them seriously, and so had Oishi. The other officers could no longer stop themselves from laughing at the ridiculous scrapbooks. Oishi glared at them, and they stopped laughing. The main reason Oishi took the story of the parasite seriously was because the Sonozaki family was apparently after Reina Ryugu for the scrapbooks she had. Plus, Takano, the owner of the scrapbooks, was killed. Because of these two reasons, he believed in that occult B novel. Oishi was frustrated without a doubt. Once again, this whole story is nothing but misunderstandings. He has to accept that he was wrong. Oishi was eager for any information that could help him solve the series of mysterious deaths in Inamizawa before he retired. A combination of a number of factors made Takano's ridiculous theory become highly credible to him.
いくつか高野美代はどうして？
高野美代についても富武二郎についても。
そりゃ自分のことを嘘つきという嘘つきが
あらあら、当家で始末したなら死体が出るとお思いで。
Mion wore a cold smile. She had said too much. Akane cleared her throat as if to condemn that statement, and that made Mion shut her mouth. Oishi glared at the young successor, but he knew she was right.
じゃあ竜宮レナをなんで追ってるんだよ。
初めから確かにそう見えてしまう誤解が生じた。その点につきましては。
The reasons which made Oishi take Reina's delusion seriously collapsed one by one. Mion and Akane looked at each other. They must have decided to let Akane speak. She did so firmly.
当家からのお願い。当家ではこのような世まいごとの内容に踊らせ伝え聞くところでは、県警防隊本部の三海氏が何かのさまつな口実をきっかけに当家に関連するすべてに対し一斉捜査を入れられるおつもりとか。
That had been at Oishi's request. Oishi took Reina's story seriously and he wanted to find the research facility that was developing the parasite. He was intending to use it as proof of the potential bioterrorist attack. But as he had no idea where to start looking, he tried to conduct simultaneous raids on all the facilities the Sonozaki family owned in the entire prefecture, in cooperation with the task force for gang groups and public safety. Normally, the circumstantial evidence he had wouldn't be enough to get their cooperation. In fact, public safety doubted Oishi's source because they hadn't heard of any potential terrorist attacks. They trusted their information network. Oishi took advantage of his long career and his old friends, and he managed to get them to cooperate. Oishi's face broke out in a nervous sweat. Needless to say, he realized he was completely wrong.
当家もダム戦争の当時はいろいろとご迷惑をおかけいたしましたが、そんな中、当家もまた弱きを助け、強きをくじく任侠団体でありながらも、そんな中、警察の一斉捜査を頂戴しては、
あんたんとこの面目なんて叩きゃ誇りが出るんだ。一斉捜査は結構し。
誇りが出れば結構。出なかった場合、いくら大石さんといえど決して軽んじれない責任問題に発展するかと存じますが。
上等だよ。牛と
それをお望み。どうかお気が済むよう当家はいつでも受けて立ちま。
Akane Sonozaki didn't betray Oishi's expectations. Although her right to become the successor was taken away, Akane had been through a lot more than Mion. Oishi couldn't back out now, but he knew it was a fight he probably couldn't win. Kumagai butted in and tried to calm him down.
一斉捜査を控えることに対する見返りは？
Mion answered this time.
双方の友好の証、そのスクラップ帳があれば、まだ高野美代を出しに矛先を引っ込めることもできましょう。
These scrapbooks proved how ridiculous Mio Takano's theory was. Takano was dead anyway. Oishi could show people these scrapbooks and say he was fooled. He could still pretend the whole raid thing never happened. He might have to take responsibility for it, but if he didn't back off now, there'd be no doubt that he'd face a hopeless mess. If he was going to back off, it was now or never. The administrative staff at the station weren't exactly fond of him. If he made such a huge mistake right before his retirement, people who had been looking for a chance for revenge would cut his pension with glee. His pension was decided by multiplying his base salary by a certain number. If they cut his base salary, there was no way he could avoid a big reduction.
おいさん。
He decided to back off. It was hard for him to admit mistakes at his age. He grimaced with anger.
あとはクマちゃんに任すわ。ちょっと私はちょいと縁側で夜風に当たってきます。失礼。
Oishi stood up quickly and left the room, making a lot of noise as he walked. Kasai closed the door Oishi left open. The room was filled with silence again. At that point, Kumagai opened his mouth.
園崎家さんのいい警察としても一斉捜査がよって市内の平穏を維持するためよってこの度の一斉捜査は見送
ありがとう園崎家当主お領に代わり
約束に従いこのスクラップ帳は警察でお預かり。それから条件が2つ。
賜ります。
1点目はこの場にないスクラップ帳を園崎家が入手した場合、2点目は竜宮レナの身柄を確保した場合
2点目は認められ、竜宮レナは当家で速やかに身柄を確保した上、これは当人の権利でもあります。
その点につきまして、当方には高野殺しを含めて重要参考に、容疑者としてではありません。
Akane whispered to Mion. Mion in turn nodded and began to speak.
わかります。2点目の条件、ただし竜宮レナの権利保全、竜宮レナへの尋問は
了解しました。ただし園崎家からの弁護士が意図的に派遣されないことによる妨害は認めます。警察は竜宮レナの身柄を。
当家も問題や、ただし竜宮レナの身柄確保時には
可能な限り早く連絡するようにいたします。
Akane cut in.
尋問をあらかた終えてから身柄を確保した時点で、ここいらは互いを信頼した。どうか保護にされることがないようよろしくお願いも。
わかりました。双方による全遵守に誠心誠意努力いたします。
Akane and Kumagai glared at each other for a moment. Surprisingly, Kumagai was very calm. He was always in the shadow of Oishi, who was loud and noisy, but he had as much guts as his superior did. Oishi was good at taking care of matters in a rough and threatening kind of way, but Kumagai was good at negotiations like this. The meeting ended, and the police stood up from their seats. The tension in the room had finally ceased. Kasai put the scrapbooks back in the suitcase, handed it to Kumagai. Kumagai looked at Kasai, nodded lightly, and took what was offered him.
イタリー製の最高級、今日のお土産に含まれますので。
いえ、お約束ではカバンは後日園崎組事務所へお返しに伺わせていただきます。それでは失礼します。園崎家当主お涼さんにもどうかよろしくお伝えください。
The officers left after bowing to Mion. After making sure that the police had left the hallway, Mion sighed heavily and finally let go of her tension. She spread her feet on the floor, flapping the rim of her skirt.
いやー、肩がお母さんがやってくれればよかったのに。
バカだね。あんたの方が肩書きが上なんだよ。こういうのは年じゃなくて、葛西、中井に行ってビールでも持ってこ。あと外の若いのも呼び入れて、何か冷たいのを振る舞ってやりな。
ビールだけでよろしい。
ああ、この子はダメ。オレンジジュースでも頼みな。
子供扱いして肩書きが上でも
いくつになってもでっかい子供だよ。それはそうと、今回の一件よーく感謝した。葛西もね、あんたも片木と会うときはもうちょい気を利かせな。
みっともない限りです。
しかしさ、大石をコケにするとはレナちゃんもやるじゃない。あんたの友達はつくづく大物が多いね。今度ぜひ母さんにもお芝居でも一緒に見に行きたいね。葛西、今度レナちゃんに会ったらぜひそう伝えておいてよ。その時また物騒な話を吹き込むんじゃないよ。
もちろん分かってます、姉さん。
With that, they successfully dispelled the magical power of Takano's scrapbooks. The whole mess shouldn't grow any larger. The only remaining problem was Reina. Where could she be hiding? Yeah, that is the question, isn't it? Before I went to bed, I headed to my window to close the curtain. I saw the shadow of a person near the porch. Who could it be so late? Well, I didn't have to guess who it was. There was only one person I knew who might come see me so late. I opened the window and looked more carefully this time. I was right. It was Reina. She was just standing still under the light. I wondered how long she'd been there for. Didn't look like she was going to ring the doorbell. She was just standing there. She seemed to be asking herself whether to ring the doorbell or not. For how long she had been hesitating in front of my door. It looked like even standing was giving her a hard time. She looked very tired. I ran down the stairs, put my sandals on, and rushed out of the house. Reina looked surprised to see me, even though I came out after making a lot of noise. She looked relieved to see me for a moment, but then she soon glanced downward and looked sad again.
わかんない。夕方ちょっと過ぎくらいからだったと思う。
Reina must have been staying somewhere outside for the last 2 days at the very least. It wasn't like she'd been camping for fun. She'd been in a state of high tension the whole time, believing that someone was trying to kill her. Reina looked utterly exhausted. She seemed to have taken care of the deep scratch she made on her neck the other day with some large band-aids. Band-aids had cute pictures, but that only made the wound on her neck look more painful. I saw some band-aids soaked with blood on her arms and body too, and I could tell she made them herself. She had more scars than she had last night.
とにかくこの2日間ろくなものを食べてないんだろ。
When I tried to take her in the house, she refused with a vague expression on her face. It wasn't that she didn't want to go into the house, more like she had to refuse because she thought she didn't deserve it.
もうね、今のこの私の全身ウジ虫が動くかゆくて
なあレナ、とりあえず今夜は俺の家で休んで、監督ならレナの微妙な立場。
自分でも富武さんが私は必死にそれを我慢しているだけ。
Reina believed she was given some kind of suspicious drug that made her claw at her neck to death just like Tomitake-san did. She had convinced herself that it was going to happen. She wouldn't hear anything else right now, but she really wanted somebody to help her. She wanted help. When somebody tried to give her a hand, it looked like the hand of the devil. If this was some kind of disease, what a horribly depressing disease it was.
私ね、どういう最後になるか。
そんなことね、無敵の部活メンバー竜宮レナが。
それでね、死んじゃう前に圭一君にどうしても謝りたかったの。
謝る？何をだよ。
私昨日すごくいけないことを言って圭一君を傷つけた。
She must be talking about last night. She trusted me. When Oishi-san told her about my past, she felt betrayed. And after that, everything I did out of goodwill seemed like the opposite to her. I know what it's like. I once felt the same way about you, Reina.
私もね、とても悪いことをしていた。いっぱい。
そうか。
圭一君みたいにおもちゃの鉄砲で撃つのなんか金属バットでみんな大怪我だった。他にもね、学校のガラスとかいっぱい割って歩いたり、それからね。
I know.
それからね。
I know. But I don't care about any of that. You did that before you moved here. That's why you stopped being Reina Ryugu and became Reina after you moved here, right? To me, you're my best friend who's very kind, thoughtful, and fun. That's the most important thing. I don't care who you were before.
ね、圭一君のこと
それは、俺も最初レナの過去のことを聞いて。
知ってたんだ。
Reina laughed sadly. She seemed shocked to find out that I knew about her history when she thought I didn't.
でも、だからな。引っ越してくる前に、それでレナはいろいろと泣いたり笑ったりしながら人生を積み重ねてきて、それでひなみ沢に引っ越し、前の町で悪いことがあったとしたって、その結果、竜宮レナってやつが尊敬できる人間に成長できたなら、どうでもいいことだったんだよ。
I should have noticed it earlier. Reina is Reina. That's why she's Reina Ryugu. I couldn't understand that simple thing when she said she wasn't Reina.
レナも、俺も、バカだったんだ。なんてバカなことをした。だから、引っ越しは人生をもう一度やり直すいい機会だと思ったんだ。だから俺は、ひなみ沢では、自分で自分が好きになれる前原圭一だったと思ってる。それは、レナもなんだろ？茨城でどういう生活だ？ひなみ沢にいる竜宮レナが大事なんだ。だから、竜宮レイナが何者だろうと、俺には全然関係ないことだったんだ。
そう。
新しい自分をやり直せる機会は、そんな機会があるから。俺たちは何回も失敗しながら、傷つきながら、人生に一度や二度のつまずきなんてつきものなんだ。だからそんなのにへこたれないで、俺たちはどんどん成長していかなくちゃいけないんだ。だから、そんなたくましい人の膝に残るかさぶたを見ておぞましく思うなんて最低のことだったんだよ。
It doesn't matter how many times you fall. When you go through a lot of pain, you can be kinder to others. So I don't need to know your past. And even if I knew, it shouldn't have changed the way I treated you. But we were fools. We couldn't understand that until we went through things like this ourselves. Mio knew that from the beginning. We were such fools. We hurt each other. We made each other cry.
だから、竜宮レナはこれまでも今も、そしてこれからも、レナが辛い時、きっと俺が助けるから、俺を信じてくれ。
ありがとう。 圭一君を信じるよ。
It's very tragic, but what she said isn't true. She probably didn't mean to lie. But I knew she didn't trust me from the bottom of her heart. My words didn't reach her. I knew that because Reina kept telling me to trust her that time. She kept saying those words, while I kept hitting her with the bat. But they still didn't reach me.
私ね、もうこんな素敵な圭一君がいるひなみ沢を救うために頑張るよ。
No. Reina.
奴らなんかにみんなで楽しく過ごしていた日々を、奴らの陰謀を必ずやっつけてみせるから。
She said that she trusted me, but she didn't understand anything I was saying. Even if I kept telling her that the conspiracy was Takano-san's delusion, it wouldn't reach her.
ありがとう、圭一君。レナを許してくれて。
I do. I forgive you. So please, forgive me for what I did to you.
きっとひなみ沢を救う。だから圭一君、力を貸して。圭一君だけは圭一君となら。
レナ、レナ。
I knew how bad of a corner Reina was driven into. If I was her, I'd be walking around with a baseball bat, thinking every single person around me was my enemy. Reina cared about me so much, but I saw her as my worst enemy. But Reina, you still trust me, even when you're driven into this bad of a corner. I couldn't understand what you were saying. I beat you to death while you kept telling me to trust you. But you're different. You still trust me? You are... so...
どうして？
許してくれ。俺はレナのことをだから。
何のことを言ってるの？圭一君はいつもレナのことを信じてくれてるよ。だからレナも信じていいんだよね。圭一君だけはレナを信じてくれるんだよね。
Tears fell from my eyes. I sobbed and nodded again and again to answer her. Tears welled up in Reina's eyes too. Before I knew it, we were putting our foreheads together with tears in our eyes.
あのね、私ね、この戦いを終わらせる方法を見つけ。
本当か？
うん、勝ち目のほとんどない方法だけど。
レナ、それがどんな方法かは知らないけど、それが終わった後、俺たちはみんなでまた楽しかった。戻れるんだよな。そうじゃなくちゃ俺はお前。
大丈夫だよ、圭一君。元の幸せな日々に戻るための起死回生、逆転の最後の一手なんだから。
I don't know what she had on her mind. It began with a delusion, and it'd end with a delusion. If I encouraged her too much, she'd twist it into an attack on her. I was like that at that time. I took Reina's goodwill as the complete opposite thing, so I stopped denying her story. This was Reina's battle. It was her lonely battle. She had to fight against her own delusion. The more we tried to help her, the more we drove her into a corner. But I would always be there for her. Whenever she needed help, she could reach me. I wanted to let her know that, so I said just one thing.
俺は最後の瞬間まで絶対にレナの味方だからな。
Even if I told her to trust me, I knew she couldn't right now. I knew that. But I told her those words anyway. Even if she couldn't believe them, if she tried to smash my head in, I'd say those words. I'd keep saying them until I die.
ありがとう、圭一君。明日でね、きっと私たちは勝つよ。そしたらまたみんなで楽しく部活をしよう。みんなで私たちが一番楽しかった時を取り戻そう。
Although she wished to regain our happy times so badly, I couldn't get rid of the darkness that controlled her mind.
じゃあ私はこれで行くね。明日の準備があるから。
To tell the truth, I didn't want to let her go. I wanted to stop her even if I had to grab her arm. But I couldn't stop her like that. If I grabbed her arm, she wouldn't trust me anymore.
待てよ、明日の準備って。
内緒。圭一君に協力してもらうこともある。
ああ、当然だぜ。
I I nodded strongly so she could tell that I was still on her side. But I didn't know what her come from behind victory meant at this point. First thing I could think of is that she was going to invade the house of the Sonozaki family, which she thought was her enemy. So I called Mion to warn her after Reina left. Mion laughed bitterly and said, "Why does everybody want us to be the bad guys so much?" But she understood the situation.
いっそ悪役に徹しさせてもらってもいいよ。レナが妙なことをしでかす前に。
本当に最後の最後まで行ったら、でもレナを信じたいんだ。最後のギリギリまで。あいつはこんなに心が追い詰められても俺をまだ信じるだけの俺とは違う。だからきっとレナは妄想に打ち勝てるはずなんだ。
最近ケイちゃんとリカちゃんが何を言ってるのかおじさんちょっと分かりかねるんだよな。なんか最近ヘビーなことでもあったわけ？
Not lately, no. That was definitely a couple months ago at this point. You can say it happened lately, in a way. I killed Mion a couple days after the festival.
悪いな。意味のわかんない話ばっかりしちゃ。それよりレナのこと見損なったりしないでくれ。な。
そんなわけないよ。誰だってたまには心が風邪をひくとき。レナのこれもその程度のこと。まあちょいと熱は高いみたいだけど、すっきりケロッと治ってすぐに笑い話になって、ケイちゃんが思ってるほど事態は悪くなってないよ。大石の大バカ野郎は自分の誤解、例の件は発生自体にも気づいてない。だからこのままレナの空騒ぎでしたってことで決着できる。
そうなのか？空騒ぎで決着できそうなのか？
そういうことで決着させんのが園崎本家次期当主のミヨン様の手腕じゃないの。某料亭でね、大石とおじさんが1対1で対談して、大石はタジタジ。いやー、おじさんもなかなかやるね。
Mion bragged about her achievement, laughing loudly. I could tell she was exaggerating a little. Anyway, compared to the sense of impending doom Reina seems to be feeling, the others seem to be taking it rather easy. It was all up to Reina now. If she understood everything, she could go back to the peaceful world she wished for. We were waiting for her to reach out to us, just like we did by the abandoned car at the garbage dump that day. Reina, I couldn't win, but I know you can, because you're the one who told me to have faith until the end. So I know you can win. That didn't mean that she could literally win the last battle she was talking about earlier. Reina would win. She'd win. She'd regain her peaceful life. Fuck, dude. God damn. Man. Don't have it be something where she fucking has her moment of realization as she's fucking dying. The fucking Steam achievement that pops up. Get the very distinct feeling that something bad's about to happen. Okay. Thanks. What happened last night?
もう明日なのです。ん？
Oh.
ああ。私たちの命日？
Right, the other person that Rika interacts with. Where is the day? Okay.
今回も同じ顛末なのです。そうかしら。よく似てるけど、いろいろと違うところもあったわ、ケイチ。そんなことはありえないのです。覚えているわけ、いや、知っているわけはないのです。あんたが絶対にありえないと言ってくれればくれるほど。じゃあこれは本当に奇跡なんだって思えるわね。どうせ今回もおしまいです。おしまい。もうすぐ終わる。全部終わる。そう。日暮らしの泣く頃に。
Well, credits. Was it all going to end anyway? The more often you throw a die, the closer the total will get to the average. When you throw a die 100 times, even if a miracle happens and you get a 6, twice or 3 times in a row, the total will average out in the end. That's a fact of statistics. When you throw a die 100 times, the total number ranges from 1 to 600. The more you throw, the greater the likelihood that the number will converge on the average. But the truth is, the more you throw, the more possible outcomes you create. There are 500 different futures you can create by throwing a die 100 times. There are 5,000 different futures you can create by throwing a die 1,000 times. There might be one future among them that enables you to actually finish this never-ending game of dice. Keiichi showed me a miracle, and it taught me that it's not a waste of effort to keep throwing the die. Don't give in to something like an average.
イラつく背中を見せるわね。どうせ今回もダメだろうって。私だってどうせダメだろうと思ってる。でもね、最後のサイコロを投げるまで圭一が教えてくれた。今回は何かが違うの。だからそれをリ
カは本当に強いの。
まあね、あんたよりはずっと若いし。
リカ？こんな時間に起きてて、夜更かしはダメでございましてよ。
Okay, so whoever this other person is, like Rika's the only one that sees them. Gotcha.
ごめんなさいなのです。寝苦しかったので星を見ていただけなのですよ。もう寝ますです。そうなさいませ。おやすみリカ。おやすみなのです。さとこ。
That's what it means by last night. This is the last night. Okay, I thought it was kind of like a thing like, where was Reina the previous night? But like, no, it's like, this is the last night before everything comes to a close. Alright, let's see what you got in store for me then. Walking with only Mion to school made me miss Reina a lot.
どうしたのさ、ケイちゃん。さっきからキョロキョロしてさ。
なんでもないよ。
It was the same old path to school, but I felt nervous for some reason. I wonder what Reina meant when she said she was going to win a come-from-behind victory last night. I couldn't stop feeling like something dangerous was going to happen. Reina thought Mion was one of her enemies, but she could be lying in wait to attack Mion with a knife.
大丈夫。レナがそんな短絡的なことをするわけないよ。まあ仮にそうでも自分の身くらい守れるからね。
Mion said it brightly as if trying to tell me she wasn't afraid of anything. But I couldn't be optimistic like her because I knew exactly what Reina was going through. Reina must be determined by now. She probably wouldn't mind dying fighting against Mion if she wasn't going to win anyway. Of course, that didn't mean she was definitely going to take violent action. But I couldn't deny the possibility either.
それよりおじさんが気にかかるのは、どうしてレナが急に変になっちゃったのか、その理由の方だね。
Was there any reason? I remembered the tragedy. I couldn't remember what made the world go crazy. That is an interesting question. What was the turning point? Well, I mean, the turning point seems to be the night of Watanagashi, right? With the death of Takano and Tomitake. That's the thing, it's always those two that are fated to die. But then it feels like, so like, with chapter 1, we now know that Keiichi was suffering from some kind of delusion. With this chapter, we know that Reina was suffering from some kind of delusion. And I can only assume now that with chapters 2 and 5, that Shion herself was also suffering, well, clearly she was actually, because she kept, like, hallucinating that there was, like, someone else there. She thought it was Satoshi, but then she's like, no, it's actually Oyashiro is watching over me. And then in the end, she's like, oh no, it's Satoshi again. So clearly Shion was dealing with her own delusions at the time as well. So clearly there is something to that. There's something to the fact that these people are suffering from some kind of delusions that causes them to act the way they do. And I suppose the same could be said of chapter 3. That Keiichi could have been suffering from some kind of delusion as well. Huh. Chapter 3 is an interesting one. Because sure, he could have hallucinated that he killed Teppei. But in that case, it doesn't make sense that his friends would cover for him at the festival. But then again, it could be like, because like with this chapter, right, we've seen Keiichi, retain memories from, a previous chapter, right? So it could be that, maybe in one of these worlds he did kill Teppei, but then that next day he's not, but that could have been like a memory that he was actually seeing that didn't really happen in the current world he was in. So the next day he goes to him, he's like, yeah, no, I did this. And they're like, no, you were at the festival. Like, yeah, no, Teppei's not dead. Satoko's still dealing with her abusive uncle at home. Like, nothing's changed. You were at the festival with us. So, like, he could have those memories of killing Teppei, but they didn't actually happen in that cycle. It's kind of my running theory here. Huh. It's just clearly there's something with Takano and Tomitake, right? And that's the thing. That's the thing. I can only say there's something. I don't know what to pinpoint it as. Obviously, the whole parasite disease theory sounded nice in theory, but like, there's got to be something that causes these delusions, right? Because clearly there's something that causes people to tear at their throats in some capacity, right? We've seen it happen to Keiichi at the end of chapter 1. Obviously, it happens to Tomitake in every iteration. And we saw it happen and we've seen Reina struggling with the same issue, trying to fight that feeling, whatever it is. Like, there's something there that causes it. And like, in Keiichi's case in chapter 1 and with Reina now, clearly it's caused by some kind of delusion. They suffer from some kind of paranoia and delusions. And I guess you could say that maybe Tomitake, after spending so much time with Takano, is heavily influenced by what she says. So maybe he also suffers from something very similar to what happened to Reina. I don't know. But then I guess the real question is, what is the truth behind Takano? Obviously, like, we want to know the mystery behind, the fucking freak incidents. Which, the really bold play is, what if they all were truly freak incidents? But then again, if there's like this pattern of delusions, right? Maybe like the guy who killed the dam manager or the dam foreman was, he was suffering from some kind of delusion, the same delusion that, we've seen Keiichi and Reina deal with, right? And Tomitake, like, maybe he suffered from some kind of delusion, right? When we think of the Hojo parents, if you want to argue that maybe one of them pushed the other into the push them off the observation deck, and maybe they were suffering from some kind of delusion when they did so, and maybe in their delusions they also threw themselves off, or that's the thing, the one body was never found, so we really don't know for sure. Year 3 was the Hura days. And who knows? That's the thing. It makes me think back to... All this makes me think back to at the very beginning of chapter... Not the very beginning, but very early on in chapter 1. When they're playing the fucking card game, right? And like sometimes the most obvious answer is the correct answer. And sometimes we're trying to look too deep into... We're trying to think too much about something and we lose sight of what's actually in front of us, right? So the whole time Keiichi's thinking like, you know, in that scenario that like the one card has got to be that card, but obviously she'd think that was the right card, so she would switch it, but obviously she would switch that, but maybe she would switch that. He thought himself too deeply and instead the obvious answer was the correct answer. It was that card. So like, that's why I start to think like, what if they truly are just freak incidents? You know? Oishi's so concerned in trying to make everything connect, but maybe that's where his delusions lie. Maybe Oishi is deluded in the fact that everything has to connect. I think there is some kind of, and maybe that's the thing, maybe I just want to believe there's some, maybe these are just isolated incidents where it happens, but I feel like there's got to be something that causes these delusions to happen that we've witnessed from Keiichi, Reina, Tomitake, potentially even Shion, right? There's got to be a cause for that, and that's more what I'm interested in, because I'm starting to think like these freak incidents are truly just freak incidents. That, we've been trying to look too deep into like what the pattern is, what the connection is, when in reality there isn't one. The only constant is that Takano and Tomitake die, but there's nothing to indicate that even their deaths are connected to anything from the previous years, right? I'm very curious to see like what Takano is the one that like really stumps me, that makes me like really question what the answer is, right? Because with Tomitake, from everything we've seen, you can just say that he's suffering from whatever illness has befallen, whether it's physical, mental, whatever, what have you. Whatever illness befell, like, the previous people I mentioned, like, he suffered from some kind of delusion that led to him tearing out his throat. That doesn't necessarily mean his death was premeditated, right? And they, they gave him the same thing they've been trying to, harness this virus and whatnot. It was definitely a fun story to think of, sure, but clearly, they've pretty much told you that's all bunk, but still, I think there's something. There's something, the fact that they, so many of these people end with their throats being torn out, or in Reina's case, the feeling of needing to like scratch at her throat regardless. There's got to be some common cause there. But with Takano, why is she being targeted in the way she is? That's what I'm very curious of. Because it really doesn't seem like it's a case of, oh, she knows too much. Because then obviously, like, the Sonozakis, the big people in power, wouldn't just hand over her scrapbooks if they were something of importance, right? Because, like, this whole time we've been operating under the assumption, or at least I have anyway, that they would have burned her scrapbooks with her body. But then they're, in that previous scene, they were just like, yeah, no, we got them all right here. By all means, look at them, go through them, have fun. See? Nothing of any value in there. Just a bunch of crackpot theories. It just makes me curious as to why she died then. Because if we take everything at face value with the previous incidents, right? Okay, the guy killed the damn foreman, dismembered him, and that's the story of what happened. that is how it went down. If we think of, the next day, like, yeah, no, that couple fell from the observation deck. Whether you want to hypothesize, maybe, one pushed the other off and then felt tremendous guilt and threw themselves off, or what have you. Take it at face value, they threw themselves off, right? Same with the Fuda days. If we take it at face value, take the obvious answer for what it is. The one guy became very sick, succumbed to an illness, and the mother couldn't handle that, couldn't cope with that loss, I suppose, and ended up throwing themselves into the swamp, or, committed suicide in some fashion. Who knows? But if we take it at face value, it is what it is. Same with, Satoshi and his aunt, right? Obviously, the police seem to have covered it up, from what we can tell, though everyone truly believes that it was Satoshi that did that. And if we take it at face value, maybe it absolutely was Satoshi that did that. You could argue maybe Satoshi himself was suffering from delusions. But if we take it at face value, it is what it is, right? If we just take everything at face value and try not to look too deeply into it, the incidents are what they are. So then the real question becomes not what connects these incidents, not what's the truth behind the previous incidents, but it's like, why does Takano keep dying? Is it Tometake that did it? Did Tometake... Because I guess that's the one connection behind all these people who suffer from their delusions, right? Before anything happens to themselves, they usually kill someone else, right? Before Keiichi tore out his own throat, he killed Reina and Mion. Reina hasn't torn her throat out yet, but who knows what she'll do before it comes to that, right? Or if we think about Shion, who clearly suffered from some kind of delusion, but not necessarily the same one. She killed several people before, she ultimately died. She didn't take her own life, but, it was a result of her own actions, trying to climb across that fire escape and whatnot. And who knows, like, it might have ended in her taking her own life at some point. And maybe she avoided that fate simply because she was climbing across that fire escape and whatnot. But that's something we see happen from these people who suffer from their delusions and whatnot. So I guess right now that's my only real running theory. But then the issue keeps popping up, right? They keep saying that Takano was dead 24 hours before she was found. But she was found the night of the Watanagashi, so anyone who had seen her that night truly didn't see her, or maybe the police have false information. Like, that's the one sticking point that's kind of weird. But like that's the one thing I kind of got in my mind right now. I'm just trying to just ignore the previous incidents. Don't try to find a connection there. They are what they are. Look at specifically what keeps happening in 83. Very interested to see how this all concludes, though. But I remembered we got lost in that awfully scary world. It started with small things, and those small things continued to pile up one after another. If you thought about it calmly, you'd laugh because it was really a stupid thing. Once those little tiny stupid things started to bother you, you couldn't ignore them. It was that kind of disease, if you could call it one. But there must have been a reason. There must have been a reason that made the world go crazy. But it must have been such a small thing that you couldn't even notice. And unfortunately, the reason was very difficult to understand. You wouldn't be able to figure it out until you died.
親戚にお医者がいてね、脳とかに腫瘍ができて、たまたまそれが珍しいところだったりすると、性格が急に変わったり、普段と別人みたいになってしまうことがあったりするんだって。
And that's an interesting theory in of itself that could lend to there's something in Hinamizawa specifically that potentially causes it. And like it's a potential cause, so it's not like something that's guaranteed to happen. It's like how, you know, to give like an extreme example, I guess, because like smoking can cause lung cancer. There are some people who smoke all their lives and will never develop lung cancer, but like it definitely can lead to that, right? Now I think smoking's something that's a lot more likely to lead to lung cancer, where it's like maybe there is something within Hinamizawa that has a possibility of developing something like this. You know, that's not a bad theory, honestly. That there is something that can potentially cause it, but it's not something that's guaranteed to happen. That's why you see so many people just live their lives normally in this town, but there's always like an outlier here and there that something happens to.
大昔はこの病気が悪魔つきや狐つきなんて呼ばれてオカルト的に脚色されてたこともあるんだってさ。
ってことはつまり脳という体の一部に起きた肉体的な病気ってわけだ。
Potentially. This thing, Mio doesn't have any answers. She's just kind of throwing shit out there.
今回に関しては精神的と捉えてもいいかもしれない。レナはリナ鉄平殺しの後かなり動揺していて、心が不安定になってた時期があった。
That is true. Reina was already unstable before the night of Watanagashi because of all she had already gone through. So then everything that's happened since has only piled on more and more and more. Whereas it seems for like Keiichi in chapter 1, his big turning point was the night of Watanagashi. It was, you know, Oishi coming to him and like isolating him from his friends and telling about what happened to Tomitake and Takano, trying to press him for answers. And I can't remember if Oishi mentions anything about the Sonozakis immediately. But like, yo, then... Or, fuck, who tells him... Is it Oishi that tells him about all the mysterious deaths that have happened in the past? And that's why he starts to be paranoid of his friends. Like, why didn't anyone tell me about this? How come no one tells me what's going on? Are you all trying to cover it up? And, yo, things start to snowball from there. And yeah, in Shion's case, God, Shion's her fucking shit has been snowballing from a very young age, just from everything she's dealt with, having to be, you know, the forgotten Sonozaki, essentially. Especially, you know, when you consider that she was never meant to be the one who was supposed to be pushed aside. She was the one who was initially meant to be the successor, so everything that's happened to her from there, obviously there's just been a massive snowball going on from there. Hers was long before anything we've seen here, but I guess her real turning point would be like the incident with Satoshi. So like there's a big turning point, and then everything starts to snowball afterwards, from what I can tell. I'm just trying to think about, like, in chapter 3, what would I deem like the specific turning point to be? Because it wouldn't be when Keiichi murders Teppei, because that's definitely like towards the end of things. That's part of like, that's more like a culmination of everything snowballing. It must just be like the moment Teppei moves back to Hinamizawa, right? And then, Keiichi starts noticing, oh, Satoko's not showing up. Now she's seeming kind of different. Now people are filling me in on what like happened in the previous year. Now I'm learning all this starts to happen. Then there's also the death that snowballs into even more what happens later after it's like, oh no, he's not actually dead. Like, a lot of things start to snowball from there. So I think it's just when Teppei moves back is like the major turning point. There's like something that causes someone to like snapping.
そんな時期に 大石のバカタレが富武さんたちの事件を大げさに吹き込むもんだから。
大石さんって人もさ、高野さんのスクラップ帳に少し似てるとこがあるかもな。
True.
へえ、どの辺が？
なんていうのかな、ひなみ沢村連続開始事件というものが存在しているというあたりについて、現に5年連続で起こってるのに、俺さ、もともと連続事件なんて
Yeah, and that's
存在しないんじゃないかって思ってる。
kind of the answer I came to on my own eventually too. That like, maybe at the end of the day we have just been looking at too much into it. We've been trying so hard to find how all the dots connect. Maybe the dots simply do not connect. It was true that the mysterious incidents happened 5 years in a row, but they were each solved individually. It was the same as a past you didn't need to talk about. We thought of them as a series of mysterious deaths, which is why we thought something was going to happen this year too. It led us to think that there was a conspiracy, that the Sonozaki family was behind it. We connect those things to the series of mysterious deaths, but we shouldn't do that in the first place. Just like I tried to keep my distance from Reina when I found out about her dark past. Wasn't everybody trying to keep their distance from the dark past of Hinamizawa? Takano-san's scrapbooks are a good example. She dramatized both recent incidents and old cruel history. She made feasible stories out of them, saying that the Sonozaki family was behind it all. Oishi-san did the same thing too. He was so convinced that the Sonozaki family was behind it all, that was making him interpret things the wrong way. In that sense, we could say Oishi-san believed in the same delusion as Reina.
その辺にはさ、何かあるごとに黒幕のように振る舞う園崎家の責任もあるんじゃねえのかな。この村では何かおかしなことがあれば、全て園崎家の暗躍、それで決着をつけられてしまう魔法の言葉になっちゃってるんだ。例えて言えばほら、この世の現象は全てプラズマで説明できるみたいな感じだよ。
ほー、つまりそれは何を、園崎家が全部悪いっては。
そうだ、お前が全部悪い。
That's the way to look at it. Like, it is your fault. Not directly, you didn't do these things, but it's partially your fault that these things have escalated to the point of where they're at.
よって、お前の名前は今日からプラズマミオンと呼ぶ。
Plasma Mio.
うわ、なんだかレスラーみたいな名前だな。
はあはあ、プロレスラー大いに結構。そうだケイちゃん、コブラツイストって知ってる？
やめろ、このクソ暑いのに絡みつくな。いててて。や
おはようございますですわ、ケイチさん。おはようなのです。
Satoko and Riki-chan looked a little sad when they saw only the two of us. If the three of us came to school together like always, they would have been really happy. But our classmates were as noisy as usual. Nobody seemed to make a big deal about Reina's absence. Chie-sensei was going to be here soon, and she started morning homeroom. Everyone was fooling around as if they didn't want to miss a second of the time until then.
ねえ、今日は臭い。窓閉めて。
Oh. Is that what's gonna happen again? The gas explosion?
バカ。窓を閉めたらもっと暑くなるんだよ。
They left all the windows open and it smelled like gasoline or something, and it really stank. Someone from the forestry service must have been putting gasoline into the construction equipment or something. Some students near the windows were making a fuss because they wanted to close the windows to shut out the smell. Our school wasn't a normal school compared to others. We were using a part of the forestry service building. Unusual things like this happen sometimes.
いやいや、いつだったかな。貝塚いぶきを選定した絵、あれはひどかった。あの独特の刺激臭は頭痛を起こさせるよね。
貝塚いぶきって何ですの？みー、お野菜の名前なのです。
It's always the damn vegetables.
たまにカレーに入ってますのですよ。
今度スーパーに行ったら探してみろ。
よくわかんないけど、最初はリカとケイチさんに毒味をさせた方が良さそうでございますわね。
あれ、俺たちのボールが。王女、お前がまた隠したんだろう。
The boys seemed to be looking for their ball for a while, and they yelled at Satoko.
誰がそんなものを隠しますの？どうせ隠すならもう少し気の利いたものを隠しましたよ。
ほらほら、先生来たよ。 みんな席に着きな。
はい皆さん席についてください。
I kept thinking about Reina the whole time during class. Thought about what she said last night. Wonder what her come from behind victory means. According to Takano-san's delusions, the masterminds behind the bioterrorism were the three families and a group of fanatical believers that controlled those three. In other words, the Sonozaki family. What could Reina do alone against them? Mion lived with her grandmother, the leader of the Sonozaki family. There were only two of them in the house. It was possible that Reina would try to break into their house with a knife. But I'd already come up with that possibility last night. That's why I called Mion and warned her. On the way to school this morning, Mion told me some bodyguards from the Corps had been at her house since this morning. She told me she'd be guarded herself, too. There was a black car parked near the school gate. It must have been the bodyguards. But, according to Takano's parasite theory, the battle wouldn't end just by attacking the leader of the Sonozaki family. According to the delusion she believes in, the conditions of her victory are more complicated than that. So what, is this gas explosion able to be, like, you know, remotely, like, caused? Not remotely, but, like, to actually be, like, deliberately caused? Like, is there something you can do that can, like, genuinely make it happen? Like, oh, if she just kills off Hinamizawa, we'll be fine. That'd be something. She needed to expose the group of fanatics who were behind the Sonozaki family, and she needed to destroy their research on the parasite. Plus, Reina didn't have much time left thanks to that suspicious poison she mentioned. But how exactly could she win a come-from-behind victory under circumstances like that? She might interpret it that the town council are the group of fanatics. If so, she might attack them the next time they have a meeting at the shrine. The town council meets once a month at most. It would be hard to believe that they were holding a meeting today. She probably thought the place researching the parasite is the Irie Clinic. Reina suspected that there was something fishy about the clinic from the beginning. And that suspicion must have changed to certainty in her head by now. Did that mean she was going to attack the clinic? This wasn't like an action movie. What could she do all by herself? Was she going to start a fire? No, that would be pointless. In order to expose the conspiracy, she'd have to get proof they were actually studying the parasite. Was she going to break into the clinic and get questionable weird samples? The last problem of all was how much time she had left. If she believed she didn't have much time left, especially under desperate, disadvantageous conditions, she might try to stab whoever she thought of as an enemy. But Reina sounded like she really believed she would regain her happy and peaceful days after everything was over. Reina probably meant she was going to stay alive and win. Was there something like an antidote? It didn't have to be real. As long as it was an antidote to Reina's delusion, it didn't matter what it was. It could even be the water you washed your vegetables with. But if she thought she could get the antidote so easily, she wouldn't have been so desperate about the time she has left. The antidote must be difficult for her to get. The easiest place for that, in her delusion, was that it was hidden somewhere in the clinic. Putting it all together like that, I felt like Ide and his clinic were in danger. Now that I thought about it, the elderly people in the village, including the members of the town council, hung out in the waiting room of the clinic all the time. If most of the board members happened to gather there, for her, it'd be the perfect place to attack. I told Mion about that during lunch break.
普段ならそんなバカなって言いたいところだけど、その可能性を全く否定できなくもないからね。本家に電話してみるよ。診療所にも人を配置するように言っとく。
Mion didn't object to my crazy idea. She put down her chopsticks and went to the teacher's office to make a phone call.
先ほどから本当にレナさんがそんな恐ろしいことをなさいますの？診療所を襲うなんて。
するかもしれない、しないかもしれない。でもな、怒っちまった惨劇に抗うってことは。
何事もないことを祈りたいのです。
わかりました。若いのを2人ほど診療所に。
まさかとは思う。何をやらかすか分かった。
姿を見たら。
どうしようね。
先日の会合で竜宮レナを確保して、ですのでひっ捕らえても一応筋は通ります。
うちの対面じゃなくて、レナの心情的に気の毒だなってこと。できたら本当に静かに
まあ若いですから、人さえ殺さなければ大抵はごめんなさいで。
じゃあアウトかもだ。
いえいえ、見つからなければセーフですから。セーフ。沖宮の界隈ではあの2人の失踪を気にする者はいません。何かのヤバい話を踏んで あの程度のゴロつきですからセーフセーフ。
アウトだのセーフだの。私ら野球拳でもやってるわけまあいいや。それじゃあくれぐれもよろしくお願い。
了解します。ではヒットライてよろしいんですね。
ちゃんとタッチアウトにするんだよ。クロスプレーなんかにしないようによろしく頼みます。
I couldn't help but have a silly chat with Kasai-san. I put the phone down and sensed Chie-sensei was looking at me. No wonder, she had been able to hear the conversation clearly in this tiny room. Chie-sensei put her spoon down with a sad look on her face. She asked the following.
今の電話はまあ、園崎さん、お友達として何か知ってはいませんか?
It was hard for anyone to understand Reina's situation, except for me and Kei-chan. So most of them thought that Reina just ran away from home. But after she did, the cops made too much of a fuss over it. She stupidly believed that the scrapbooks were a big scoop and he overreacted in trying to find Reina. He had patrol cars running around everywhere in the village, even used the town's council's phone directory to find her. So people in the village thought Reina did something wrong and was trying to run from the cops. What was going to be difficult for me, more than finding her, was to make up a story to retrieve Reina's honor after they detain her. What about this? Reina went for a walk, fell down, hit her head on the edge of some tofu, and lost her memory. Yeah! That tofu, my man, you hit your head on it, fuck. Oh, she misunderstood something big time when he thought she was a criminal. It was too easy. Anyway, we did make it clear that Oishi was the one who misunderstood everything at the meeting the other day. I had to make the best use of his name while he was feeling down for once. What I have to do was not make too big of a deal about this situation, and to create an environment that allowed Reina to forget everything that happened in order to get her life back together as soon as possible.
大丈夫ですよ先生。レナは今ちょっと病気になって、それを警察の某ベテラン刑事が素敵に勘違いして話をややこしくしただけ。まさか先生、レナが悪いことをして逃走中なんて。それはでも家出することによってご家族におかけしている迷惑を考えれば悪くないということはありません。
She had a fight with her father and she ran away from home for a little while. She acted childish and that's all. That would be the best story to go with.
何か悩みがあったのでしょう。それに気づけなかった私は一度竜宮さんとじっくりお話がしたかった。先生、ちょっとヘビーに考えすぎです。もうちょっとリラックスリラックス。プチ家出なんて今時珍しくないですって。はあ、竜宮さんがこのまま不良になってしまって。
Ryuga-san becomes a bad kid. She does something bad and gets arrested by the police. It's her teacher's responsibility. I'll be dishonorably discharged. I can't eat curry anymore. Of course. I'm dead. Dear God, not the idea of no more curry. Chie-sensei seemed comically upset by her own imagination. It looked funny, so I decided to leave her alone. I made to leave the teacher's office to go back to the classroom, but right then the phone rang.
はい、もしもし、ひなみ沢文庫でございます。
Chie-sensei had to answer the phone all day today because the principal was on a business trip. I exited to the hallway. Then I heard the tone of her voice change.
今、どこにいるんですか?
What? I yelled and looked back at her. It was probably Reina. She called the school. Tried to go back inside the teacher's office, but Chie-sensei gestured at me not to come in. Chie-sensei acknowledged what Reina was saying several times, then she looked up at the clock.
わかりました。今からすぐ先生との約束ですよ。
She said only that, put the phone down and got her purse out of her locker.
院長、先生は休養がしばらく表へ出ますので、みんなを自習させてください。
She took her car key out from her purse. It was obvious that she was going to see Reina somewhere.
先生、今の電話以上です。よろしく頼みますよ、院長。
Chie-sensei completely ignored me and she ran into the hallway. She ran to the schoolyard and got into her car. The moment her car left through the gate, I ran out to the schoolyard myself. I headed for the black car parked near the gate and knocked on the window.
お疲れ様です。今のところ
今出ていた先生の車を多分行く先にレナがいる。
了解っす。
レナは警戒心が強いから注意。捕まえたら有無を言わさずに本家放り込んで葛西の指示に従うこと。私の友人だよ。怪我なんかさせたら許さないからね。
Reina must have told Chie-sensei that she wanted to talk to her alone. I could tell that easily from the way she ignored my question. I did feel a little bad for ruining their promise. It was very important that we caught her before she did something wrong. We could still make up an excuse that she was just wandering around because she had a fight with her father and ran away from home. But if she set fire to the clinic or something, there would be nothing I could do. The car made a rough U-turn on the gravel road and it chased after Chie-sensei's car at full speed. I watched the car until it was gone. All I could do now was to pray that this would be settled calmly.
午後の授業は自習というわけで、おとなしく席について何かやること。
自習？
Mion ran up to me and spoke quietly.
レナから電話が。
本当か？
うん。つい千恵先生が指定された場所に。
レナのやつ、一体。
わかんない。とにかく、うちの車に先生の後を追わせてる。
Oh, unless she's big braining it and she did that on purpose. Right? Oh, now Mion's got no bodyguards. Be a shame if someone just strolled up and did something now, huh? Imagine.
レナには悪いけど、そこで踏んづかまえる。
うまくいくといいな。
荒事には慣れてる連中任せとこう。
じゃあ捕まえれば一件落着なのか。
だね。そしたらとりあえずきっと専門の医者が見たら、なんだって強迫性、心因性、ストレスなんた。
While we were spending our afternoon studying peacefully, the members of the Sonozaki family would capture Reina, who was waiting for Chie-sensei somewhere. The problem would be solved. It wasn't going to be easy after that, but I was sure Mion would take good care of her. And in the end, everybody would understand that Reina just ran away from home because of a silly fight with her father. A happy ending.
一件落着でしょ?
Mion winked at me. She looked like she already thought everything was over. That just didn't sound right to me. Yeah, that's the thing. I'm like, no. That's not something that's just gonna happen off screen. I doubt it. Like, after this, Mion says, like, yeah, no, I sent my bodyguards after her. So it's like, oh, so now you're out with no bodyguards, right? You got no protection on you. It's almost like she predicted how you would react. I couldn't see any connection between Reina and Chie-sensei. Yeah, that's the other thing. It was hard to explain, but there was something wrong. I wasn't saying that they didn't get along. Reina was a good student, so Chie-sensei had a good relationship with her. But I just didn't understand what Reina wanted from Chie-sensei. I was thinking about it, the door opened, and one of our classmates came back from the bathroom. With Reina. Yep. Uh-huh.
Reina!
みんな、教室の真ん中に集まって。
Everyone gasped in surprise. Even Chie-sensei couldn't make everybody go so quiet all of a sudden. Reina was gripping the shoulder of the student who came back from the bathroom. In her other hand, she had a big scary-looking hatchet. It was the same one she had the other night. Everyone immediately understood that Reina had taken a hostage.
みんな、教室の真ん中に集まって。机は周りにどけちゃってね。
Nobody grasped what she was asking us to do. We all froze. Reina was the only one who was smiling. It was terrifying.
兄ちゃん、委員長でしょ。みんなに指示して。
レナ、あんた何をやってんの?
A loud noise washed out Mion's voice. Reina hit the teacher's desk really hard with her hatchet. She pulled out the hatchet, making an ominous ripping noise. There was now a line of violence carved plainly into the desk. Uh-oh. She broke it. Chie-sensei's gonna get mad when she comes back. No, that wasn't it. What the hell?
みーちゃんはやっぱり、じゃあケイチ君に頼む。ケイチ君だけは、だから信じていいんだよね。
Reina, your eyes look so scary. I've never seen eyes like that in my life. Your eyes are full of insanity. Why are people afraid of insanity? Insanity means that a person doesn't share the same values and the same common sense as us. For example, say a thief breaks into your house and he ties you up. You'll get scared and wonder if he's going to stab you before he leaves. But you hope that the thief has feelings too and that he's not going to kill you for no reason. No matter how bad the person is, we tend to believe in his goodwill as long as we share the same values, the same common sense, and the same morals as him. But we can't expect goodwill from somebody who doesn't have those things. We can't expect goodwill from a person who can't communicate with us. When a burglar has a knife and you beg him not to hurt you, you expect him to listen to you and to show you mercy. In other words, you can still communicate with him. But if he doesn't have the ability to communicate, he's just like a monster that's trying to attack you, or like the blade of a guillotine that's falling down on you. You fear him because you can't communicate with him. That's insanity. It was the same fear we were feeling towards Reina at that very moment. She looked like a human, just like us. There was no room for her to communicate with us like a normal person could do. Everybody understood that fear instinctively.
ケイチ君、机をどけさせて。
みんな、レナが言うのに従おう。
Reina was like a barrel of gunpowder at that moment. She seemed really calm and quiet, but she could explode any minute. When she did, I doubt she'd show us any mercy. She probably wouldn't hesitate to use that hatchet on us. That's right. Just like how I didn't feel guilty or hesitate to kill Reina and Mion. Everybody went all quiet while pushing the desks against the wall to make a space where Reina wanted it. Reina, saying that we're moving too slow, hit the blackboard with her hatchet, making a horrible noise. Every time she did that, she left an equally horrible scar on the blackboard. The thing looked like the thing that we looked at most in the school.
じゃあケイチ、みんなのロッカーから縄跳びを出してもらえるかな。それを使ってみんなを後ろ手で縛ってね。
俺多分
後でちゃんと縛れているか、ゆるい人はその場で殺しちゃうから、しっかり縛ってあげてね。
Jesus Christ, alright. We were still kids. We saw the word kill all the time. It was used a lot in comic books and cartoons after all. So normally you'd assume we'd be used to hearing the word kill. But when Reina said she'd kill us, it sounded so frightening. I'd never heard something like that before in my life. To Reina, our lives were like cards she could use for negotiation. She'd get rid of one card every time somebody refused her request. Get rid of? Damn it. Why do we use such scary words like get rid of for simple things like playing cards? Anyway, there were about 20 students in the class. That was a little bit too many for Reina to handle. She might get rid of one or two just to set an example. I decided to do what Reina said because I didn't want her to lose her temper. I got out everybody's jump ropes from their lockers.
じゃあみんな、ケイチ君は後ろ手にどんどん縛ってきっちり縛るんだよ。ケイチ君は私の味方だから、わざとゆるくなんか縛って。
Mion tried to make eye contact with me. If everybody was tied down, we wouldn't be able to stop her from occupying the school. There were more than 20 students in this class. Half of them were boys, but most of them were smaller than Reina. But there were enough people here to overpower her. But if we did that, Reina would probably hit her hostage with the hatchet. And she'd use the hatchet to attack the rest of us without hesitation. It'd be a bloody battle. I'm sure somebody would get hurt if we tried to overpower her. The hostage would be seriously injured. Or maybe even die. If that happened, it was over. No matter how hard we tried to cover up, she'd never be able to live peacefully like before. Mion seemed to understand that too. I could tell from Reina's eyes that she wasn't going to go easy on us. If somebody showed defiance, she'd break the hostage's head open immediately. Of course, Reina had done that before. She'd probably do it again with no hesitation. But as long as we did what she said, we could prevent that bloody tragedy. If we could somehow solve the situation without shedding any blood, with Mion's influence, we might still be able to pretend that this never happened. At the least, we had to make sure she didn't kill anyone.
従おう。ケイちゃん。
Mion tried to think of ways to overpower Reina, but she couldn't come up with any good ideas to save the hostage. That's how easy it would be for Reina to kill them. Best thing to do at that time was to wait for a chance without agitating her further. Mion lay down on the floor and everyone else followed suit, sluggish with terror. And I was left alone, standing, rooted to the spot with jump ropes in my hands. All my classmates were lying face down on the floor, while Reina was pointing the hatchet at the hostage, watching our every move from behind the teacher's desk. I just stood frozen in the middle of it all.
ケイチ君にはまだだから早くして。あんまり時間がかかると何人かが死んでしまうかもしれない。
Some of the little kids started crying when they heard the word die.
大丈夫だよ。ケイチ君がきっとだからきっと。
Damn it. What a bold threat. She said I was her friend, but she was just playing with the meaning of the word. I was the last person who could still fight against Reina under these circumstances. But it wasn't going to be easy to overpower her by myself. I wasn't sure if I could do that. Even if I tried to act tough, once Reina pointed that hatchet at somebody's neck, it was over. I shouldn't fight against her for now. I should just wait for a chance. As long as Reina was alone, there would be a chance. She made me tie them up because she couldn't do that by herself. There was a limit to what she could do because she was by herself. If we could cover this up somehow before Chie-sensei came back, we'd still be able to pretend like we were kidding around. I finally realized something. I realized why Reina called Chie-sensei to meet with her. In order for Reina to take over the classroom, she needed to get rid of Chie-sensei. Chie-sensei had a very strong sense of justice. Even if Reina had a gun, she wouldn't hesitate to overpower her. She was the kind of teacher who would risk her life for her students. Reina needed to figure out how to get rid of Chie-sensei. That was the key to her plan. Reina probably thought about attacking her from behind at first. But there was a risk there, as Chie-sensei was a grown-up woman, so she probably thought that attacking her directly wasn't a wise choice. So naturally, the next option was to lure her out somewhere. Reina called Chie-sensei and told her she wanted to talk to her in private, in order to lure her out to some place far from here. Most people, including Chie-sensei, thought Reina was just running away from home. So Chie-sensei must have thought Reina had some problems she wanted to talk to her about. It was too easy to deceive her. Where did she make the phone call from? She probably used the phone in the school. Well, not in school to be exact. She probably used the phone on the second floor of the school, the one belonging to the Forestry Service. This school was using part of the Forestry Service building, but this particular location was more of a branch office. So it's not like somebody was here all the time. Reina knew that. She had probably been hiding there for a while. She called the phone on the first floor from the second floor, and she made Chie-sensei leave the school. I didn't think it was a coincidence that the principal was on a business trip today. She probably snuck into the school yesterday, saw the principal's schedule, and learned how to call the phone on the first floor from the second, and carried out her plan. She planned it perfectly. Yeah, I knew it. Reina was insane, but I knew she was actually really calm. She was possessed by her delusion, but she was also unbelievably calm about it. So, she could still think fast. I knew that very well because I'd been through the same thing before. What was worse is that Mion's bodyguards were gone. Mion told them to follow Chie-sensei because she thought Chie-sensei was going to meet with Reina. Damn it. Everything seemed to be working out in her favor. I tied up the last person and I looked in Reina's direction. If I didn't tie them up really tightly, Reina would kill them. When I tied them too tightly, they suffered in pain. The pain cries made me feel useless.
ありがとうってケイチ君を疑りはしないけど、ケイチ君は頭の上で手を組んで、これは全員に言うけど、私の断りなく立ち上がったら殺す。本人も殺すし、見せしめでランダムにもう一人殺す。ランダムじゃよくないね。じゃあこうしよう。言うことを聞かなかった子と、出席番号に銃を加えた子を殺す。例えば、そうすると、渡辺君が一緒に殺され、わかる？常に二人死ぬの。歯向かっても自分の命一つじゃ責任が取れないってこと。よーく胸に刻んでおくんだよ。
How awful. She totally understood how to threaten people. Normally you stand against an attacker at your own risk. If you fail, you're going to die. But if you were responsible for someone else, then you couldn't try to resist. You can't risk somebody's life with your own decisions.
全員ちゃんとケイチ君、縛るの下手くそって自信持っていいよ。じゃあ、ケイチ君は立って。
It was too late to fight back. I followed her orders. I just had to wait for a chance. We could still turn this into some kind of bad joke. I had to. I had to do something. Anyway, what were you planning to do, Reina? Don't tell me this is the comfort behind victory you were talking about. Well, duh, it is. Like, don't tell me this is what you wanted to do. What the Nah, this was just a big game, bud. She's just fucking around with you. Okay. But unfortunately, I do have to stop here for today. As much as I feel like we're right here at the end, we're in the final stretch, we're almost there. Unfortunately, I have run out of time for today. As much as I genuinely would love to keep going. I'm so interested to see where this chapter specifically concludes. Ugh. God damn. I am very interested to see what happens though. See if it truly parallels what happens in chapter 1. Does Keiichi also die trying to regain Reina's trust? Does he actually manage to get through to Reina? Does Reina actually have a realization moment? Because like, after Keiichi, had that memory, retained that memory from the first chapter, he kept saying that he believed Reina was stronger, right? That he wasn't able to fight his delusion, but he believed that Reina would be able to. So I'm very curious to see if she is actually able to do it, if she is actually able to overcome that. Is it only in like her dying moments, right? Does he find it a moment to actually, try to, what's the word I'm looking for? Not take advantage of. I don't know, to at the very least disarm her? Does he find some way to actually, you know, reverse the situation, catch her by surprise, something? Like, and if so, what does it take to actually get through to Reina? Like, do they actually manage to get through this without any bloodshed from any of the classmates? Is it just either Reina or Keiichi that something happens to? There's a lot that I'm very excited to see how the rest of this chapter plays out. But yeah, like I said, unfortunately I am out of time for today. So thank you to everyone watching. It's all much appreciated. And hopefully I'll see y'all in the next one. But until then, thanks.